Hello everyone, this is Varsha. Welcome to Programming Knowledge. So I'll be teaching you Selenium and we will cover many topics like how to interact with the web elements, then like text boxes, date picker, drop down menu and radio buttons, etc. And also the SQL tool which is used for the GUI automation, the data driven testing and many more. So let's get started, and today we will discuss about how to become an automation tester, or what are the prerequisites to become an automation tester. Okay. Now see, before you understand what is manual testing or what is automation testing, you need to know what is testing. Okay. So testing is a part of software development process. When we develop a software, it is a part of it. And it is an activity to detect and identify the defects in the software. Now, what are defects? Let me show you this document. Okay. Now, this is a test case document. We have the test case ID, we have the module name, we have the requirement ID, we have scenario, test case title, steps, test data, expected result, actual result, and status. Now here you see expected result and actual result, right? So when there is a difference between the expected result and actual result, it causes a defect. Let us take up an example. Like suppose we have a login form, right? So whenever the user enters valid username and valid password, it will get navigated to the home page. This is the expected result, right? But while testing, the tester is navigated to some other page after login. When the tester is entering the valid username and valid password, it is getting navigated to some other page. Whereas the expected result is that it should get navigated to the home page. So there is a difference between the two. So this causes a defect, right? So basically, testing is an activity to detect and identify the defects in the software. Why do we do testing? This is also very important. We do testing to release quality product to the client. Now there are many big applications, like suppose there's a banking application, or there's an application like Phone Pay or Google Pay which involves money transactions. Okay, you need to test that thoroughly so that there are no losses, or it will also damage your goodwill, right? Suppose there is some faults in Phone Pay. Okay, obviously you will stop using that app and switch to some other apps, right? I'm just giving an example. It's just an example. So this is the reason why we need to test, so that we release a quality product to the client. Now testing can be done in two types. That is the manual testing and the automation testing. Now manual testing is a type of software testing where testers manually execute test cases without using any automation tool. Okay, and automation testing means using automation tool to execute your test cases. Okay, so basically, like I have shown this document to you, this is manual testing, in which these steps that launch the browser, navigate to the URL, register button, all these tasks is performed manually, okay, by the testers. Whereas in automation, you perform these tasks through test scripts using an automation tool. In manual testing, you prepare test cases. In automation testing, you prepare test scripts. Okay? So now we have understood what is testing, what are the different types of testing. Now let's understand what is the requirement to become an automation tester. So the first point is, don't ignore manual testing. This is the most important point. Manual testing is the basis of testing. It includes many types of testing like the black box, white box, unit test, integration, smoke, sanity, ad hoc, exploratory. So there are many testing concepts, okay? You need to know all of them, like what is the difference between the black box and the white box. So it is very important that you learn your manual testing concepts first. That is the prerequisite to become an automation tester. And automation testing is nothing. It is just a branch of testing. It is just a form that uses a little technical approach to test the application, okay? And also, manual testing faces many challenges like the retesting and the regression testing. Now, if you don't know what is retesting and regression testing, you won't be able to correlate with terms, right? So you need to learn manual testing, because there are many terms in manual testing which confuses, like the smoke testing, sanity testing, then the stress testing, load testing. There's a difference between the two, the functional, non-functional testing. So you need to know your manual testing concepts really well. And also you need to learn your manual testing, because suppose, let me give you an example, like suppose you see some part of a product is just disappearing for an unknown reason. Okay, now obviously whenever something looks a bit off while testing, the human eye can detect it very easily, whereas there is a high chance that the automation testing will miss those glitches. Okay, we need automation is something, see, we tell the computer to do it, right? So we have to tell the computer to make such script and test it, whereas the human eye can detect it very easily. So that is also a reason why manual testing should be learned. Like, you need to learn those basics first, and also manual testing is conducted first, then automation testing is done. And automation testing is only done for those test cases which is repeated numerous times. Not all test cases are automated. Okay. So the first point is, don't ignore your manual testing. The second point, have some technical skills. Okay. Now, it is the biggest myth that testers don't require knowledge about programming language. This is just a myth. I have seen there are many people who ask that, can we learn automation testing with no programming skills, or do we need coding skills to become a great automation tester? Now, most of them, they wish to skip the coding part, or they don't like the programming and they just feel that, yeah, let me move on to automation testing because there's no programming required in that. Now, let me show you, or let me tell you that this is just a myth. The reality is that you need to have a very good programming knowledge skills. Okay, like, let me show you this chart. See, if you're good in Java, in testing, for testing in UI automation, you can do Selenium. You can use a Selenium tool. For API testing, you can use the RESTful API. For mobile app testing, you can use APM. For unit testing, you will use TestNG if you're good in Java. Okay. Whereas if you're good in C#, then you can use, for UI automation, Selenium. Now, Selenium supports many programming languages. Okay, I'll tell you later what is Selenium, what all it supports, what is its drawbacks and everything. For now, I'm just telling you, if you really think you want to become an automation tester, you need to have good programming skills as well. Okay, API testing, if you're doing it C#, you can use REST#. Then mobile app testing, APM also supports C#. In unit testing, you can do NUnit. So there are different languages and different tools are used for it. And Selenium is one of the most popular automation suites, and Selenium supports functional regression testing also. Now, what is functional regression testing? Again, we will cover those points later. But I'm just telling you, again, you need to know your manual testings. Here, every manual testing concepts come, okay? Then the third point is, understand the application well. Now, see, let me tell you an example. Like, when you go to the doctor needs to have a complete information about your past and existing health issues. What are your old medical prescriptions, etc. Are you allergic to any medicine or something? And then only the doctor will be able to understand your health issues and symptoms and prescribe you medicines, right? So the same goes in the software industry. Remember, the software industry consists of 3 P's: people, product, process. That is, the software industry produces a product for their people through a certain process. Now, as a tester, you need to know everything about the product or the application. Okay? So this is the first and the foremost task. Like, suppose you are in an industry or in a software company and they tell you to test this application to do automation testing. What is the first thing that you will see? You will see that what type of programming language is used by the development team. According to that, you will select the tool. Like, for Java, you can use, if you're doing unit testing, you can use TestNG. Okay. If you're doing C#, if the programming language uses C#, for unit testing, you can use NUnit. So depending on the programming language, you will use the tool, right? The second thing is that if you're doing database testing, you need to know where the backend information is stored in MySQL, Oracle. Okay. Then this third point is that API and web services. If you're doing API testing, you need to know what are the web services that is connected to the system. And according to that, you will select your API tool and do testing, right? Then the next point is that the expected time spent by the manual tester while testing the application. Now see, manual testing is always conducted first and then the automation testing is conducted. Okay. And automation testing is only done for the applications that are very stable. So manual testing is done first and the test cases are executed manually first, and then the test scripts are done for only those test cases which are repeated numerous times. Okay. So how much time did the manual tester test the application? Are there any defects and bugs still there, or they're resolved? So all these takes a lot of time. So you need to know how much time the manual tester has taken. Then the next point is that what is the objective of the owner developing this application? If it is a banking application, obviously the objective is that there should be a secure payment gateway, there should be secure money transactions, okay, debiting, crediting and everything. So what is the objective behind developing this application? See, when you're in industry, it is not only about automating and making test scripts. It is about everything. It is about how you communicate with your developers, how you communicate with your senior managers, and how you understand the application well also will help you to test it better. Okay. So to become a good automation tester, you need to understand what is the objective of this application that is being developed and what are the functions and features. Like you will be obviously testing those functions and features, right? Like you have the search functionality, you have the payment module over there. So you will be testing those modules, right? So you need to know those business requirements really, really well. Moving to the next point is that expertise with the automation tool. Once you know your manual testing concepts really clear, it is clear, you know your programming language, you can, you know your business requirement, then you can expertise with an automation tool. Like if you want to test a web-based application, you can use Selenium. But if you want to test a mobile application, you can use APM. Now, if you're doing API testing, you can use SOAP UI. Now, QTP is something which is not free source. So, less company use QTP. Selenium is used by vast companies. So, it depends on which type of testing you are doing. There are large varieties of automation tools in the market. So, depending upon your requirement, you choose one and expertise on that. So the next is knowledge on different methodology. Now see, when you go for an interview, there are many there are many automation testers, right? So to stand out, there should be something. I will tell you those points as well to stand out in an interview, but this is also one amongst them. Like knowledge of different methodology, like what methodology your company is following, like the agile methodology, the DevOps, the V model. V model is not that old also. Many companies still follow V model. But recent times is that companies follow agile methodologies and DevOps a lot. So now if you join any company, right, you are expected to have a knowledge on these different methodologies also. And your company is expecting you to attend like Scrum meetings. If it is agile methodology, you will attend Scrum meetings, you will attend daily stand-up meetings. You should know what are your responsibilities in your daily stand-up meetings, how those meetings are conducted, what do you need to say, how do you need to communicate with your seniors. So these all methodologies tell you what meetings to attend and what to say, what not to say, and how to communicate with your senior managers, and how to participate in every meeting. So these things will always help you to stand out. So it is also important to know these different methodologies also. So let's just sum up everything, whatever I told, that to become a good automation tester, you need to have good manual testing skills. Your basis should be really clear, and you should also have some technical skills. Never think that a tester should never have good technical skills. Okay, you should have some technical skills like Java, C#, JavaScript. Okay, then you have to understand the application really well. If you want to test it, you have to understand it. Okay. Then the fourth point is that you need to expertise with the automation tools. Select any tool like Selenium, QTP, and expertise with it. Then the fifth point is that knowledge of different methodologies like the Agile methodology and the DevOps methodology. We have the V model. So you need to know these different methodologies as well. Today we will understand what is automation testing, what is test automation, life cycle of automation testing, manual testing, and its challenges. So let's get started. First, what is automation? Now, this is the definition I have taken from the internet, but let us understand. Automation is the creation and the application of technologies to produce and deliver goods and services with minimum human intervention. Basically, automation is to create and deliver goods and services with minimum human intervention. This is the technical definition. Let us take up an example and understand it. It will be very easy and clear. Just imagine a construction site where there are workers working to dig a tunnel. Like you can see in the image, you can see that there are many workers involved in digging one tunnel. So this is manual work. Okay. What if we use a machine to dig a tunnel? That will be automation. Like here you can see in the image, it will minimize the labor, or it will substitute the laborers that are working on the site, which in turn will reduce cost. Why? Because this machine can perform the work of at least 7 to 8 people. So it will reduce the cost. It will substitute the workers that were working on the site. Next, it will increase the production output. Why? Because it is performing the work of 7 to 8 people, so obviously it will increase the production output. Next, we have that it improves the response time, because through automation or through machines you can get a large amount of production in less time, so it will improve your response time. Next, we have that improves the work safety. Now there might be a condition or some condition where it might harm the workers. There might be a situation where they might be working in some conditions where it must be harming them. So through automation, it is using machines, so it will provide worker safety also. And yes, it will provide also, there will be proper time utilization because of automation, that is the machines that will be used, because there will be less human intervention in it. So if we use automation machines, it will reduce cost, increase production output, improves the response time, improve work safety, and proper time utilization. So the major goals of automation is to save time, save your effort, and save money. These are the main goals of automation. Okay, now we know what is automation. Automation are of two types. That is the automation testing and test automation. See, while you must think that like these are the different ways to say the same thing, but these terms actually have very different meanings. Okay, now see, automation testing means using an automation tool to execute your test cases. Whatever test cases were executed in manual testing, you can automate it through using automation tool, and that is called automation testing. Whereas test automation, on the other hand, is basically the automatic and effortless execution of predefined tests. Now see, automation testing involves the process of automating the execution of test cases, whereas test automation involves continuous testing. That is, we need to schedule automation tests after every feature update. It's called as test automation. Let me take up an example. It will be very easy. Okay, so suppose you need to write a test script. Okay, you need to write a test script in which first the user will log in and then it will log out. Okay, this is the build one, you say, which is, you need to write the test script where the user will log in and then it will navigate it to the home page, and then it will log out. You need to write an automation test script for this. Okay, so this is called as automation testing. Why? Because we are performing a specific task. Now, how is it different from test automation? Let me explain. Now, suppose there's another feature that is added. A feature is added, that is the search functionality. Okay, the search functionality. So now you want to write a test script in which the user will first log in. It will get navigated to the home page. It will search the product that they want. That product, they will search the product and they will log out. Okay, this is build 2. Okay, so the flow goes like, the first the user will log in, it will go to the home page, they need to search a product and they need to log out. This is the functionality, and the new functionality that is added, the search functionality. Okay, this is how the process goes. Now again, there is a new build that came out in which a new feature was added. Now again, a new functionality was added, that is the add to cart. Okay, here we want that the user should log in, search the product that they want, add their product to the cart and log out. Okay, this process we need to automate it through test scripts, in which the user first logins and gets navigated to the home page, and then they will search the product that they want. They will add the product to the cart and they will log out. Okay, now this process of automating these builds is called as test automation. Why? Let me tell you. Because we are scheduling automation scripts after every update. After there is every update, the first update that we have is the search functionality. Then the next update that we have is the add to cart functionality, right? This is the build 3, I can say. Yes. So what is the similarity between the build 1, build 2 and build 3? See, first, build 1 and build 2, the similar functionality that we have in build 1 and build 2 is the login and the logout functionality. Okay, in build 2 we have the login, search and logout functionality. So here we are doing continuous testing of login, search and logout functionality in build 2 and build 3. That is the reason why it is called as test automation, because test automation is related to continuous testing. That is, we are scheduling automation scripts for after every update that we get, we are scheduling an automation script for it. Whereas automation testing is related to specific task. Whatever task that we had performed in manual testing, we'll just automate it in automation testing. That is, there is login functionality or registration functionality or some other functionality. So automation testing is the testing which is related to specific task. And test automation is scheduling the automation scripts after every update. It is related to continuous testing. Now see, both these automation testing and test automation, they have the same objective, to produce quality product to their client. The same objective they both are having. I hope you have understood the difference between the automation testing and test automation. So moving on to the next concept is the automation testing lifecycle. Now the very first thing that comes into our mind is that why should we learn the automation testing lifecycle? First thing, it is asked for interviews. Okay. The second thing is that automation testing is an effective way to meet the testing goals. Now, what are your testing goals? The first one is to reduce human intervention. Second one is to save time. Third one, that you get an expected output in minimum time. And all these are achieved through appropriate timelines and with adequate resources. Now, what if there is no timeline, there is no resources, we don't know how to execute it? So, what will happen? It will obviously cause a failure. Automating tests without a plan or a sequence can lead to massive scripts, which can often fail and involve a lot of human intervention in it. Okay, so that is the reason why we are studying the automation testing life cycle. Now here I'll be telling you the entire life cycle of automation testing. I'll be also explaining you which test cases are to be automated and which test cases we have to perform manual testing. See, manual testing is always done first and then the automation testing is done. But the question is that which test cases should we perform automation testing? Okay. So let's move on and understand it very carefully. Now there is a developer which has developed an application according to the user requirement, and this application is known as the build one. Okay. Now the developer will assign this application to the tester to test it, to identify the defects. So what will the tester do? The tester will perform manual testing on build one. Obviously manual testing is done first, so manual testing will be performed first. Now just assume there are some 50 functionalities and all are tested through manual testing. These 50 functionalities are tested through manual testing. Okay, so when all these functionality are tested through manual testing, and what they will do, that they will give this build to the client to check whether the application is properly developed according to their requirement or not. See here, there are many people involved, like the PA, the QA, the project manager, etc. There are many people. Okay, so as a tester, you will not deliver the application to the client. Obviously, no. But just to create an understanding that which test cases should be automated and which one to do manual testing, I'm just creating an understanding for you. Okay. So coming back to the process, like there are 50 functionalities and all are tested through manual testing, and the build is given to the client to check if they meet their requirement or not. What the client does, they check it. Now the client wants to change some functionalities. Now let us assume like out of 50, 20 functionalities need to be changed. So what the developer will do? Developer will change all those functionality and give the build to the tester to test it. Now this is build 2. Okay, now here the automation testing starts. Here you will get to know what to automate, what not to, in which we have to do manual testing. So when the tester receives this build 2, now whatever test cases were written for the previous build, like for the build 1, cannot be reused again because those 20 functionality has been changed completely. Okay, so what the tester will do, they will check what all changes have been made to these 20 functionalities. And what they will do, they will perform automation testing for these 20 functionalities. This is where automation comes into a picture. Okay, and this process of testing build 2 again for the 20 functionalities is called as retesting in manual testing. This is a major challenge of manual testing also. I will explain that later, but I'm just telling you that which test case to perform manual testing and which case test cases should be performed automation testing. So now we know that there are 50 functionalities, out of which 20 they need to make entire changes in it. So what the tester will do, the tester will intimate the test manager. The test manager will prepare a test plan. The test plan, which includes that which test cases to be automated and which test cases to be done manual testing, and all those reports have been made by the test manager. So I hope you have understood that which test cases to be done manual testing and which test cases to be done automation testing. That is, the 20 test cases which were changed are to be done automation testing, and the 10 and 30 test cases out of 50 were done through manual testing. Okay, so I hope it's clear that which test cases to be done automation and which test cases manual testing. And so now I'll be explaining the life cycle of automation testing. Till now I was just explaining that which test case to do manual testing and automation testing. Now the real automation testing lifecycle will get started. See, once the test plan is prepared by the test manager, the test manager organizes KT sessions, that is the knowledgeable transferable sessions for the automation testers from the manual testers. Now see, there's a group of automation testers. These automation testers work on many projects. Like here there might be 20 builds. In some other project there might be 30 builds or 40 builds or 50 builds. So depending on that, they provide KT sessions by the manual testers, because they need to tell the functionality of the application first, and the automation tester need to understand the functionality, all those 20 functionalities which were changed. So they will explain all those 20 functionality to the automation testers, what is the functionality, what is the features in it, and everything. So once the automation tester knows what are the functionalities and the knowledge has been shared within the team, then the test automation requirement is being identified. Now, what is a test automation requirement? Test automation is that they prioritize the manual test cases for automation. What are the test cases? Like there are a list of 10 to 20 test cases, and just giving an example, list of 10 to 28 test cases, and out of that the 4 to 5 test cases need to be done on priority. So they will prioritize each and every manual test case, and they will also decide that which web elements they need to interact with. See, web elements are like the drop down boxes, the menu buttons, the text boxes that you see, the GUI buttons that you see, right? Those are web elements. We will interact with it, we will understand that. So they will understand all those web elements, and they will prepare a test automation requirement, and they will understand what is the requirement. Okay, so the next process is test plan and estimate. After knowing what is the requirement, they will plan and estimate. Here the automation tester will prepare a test plan, automation test plan. Like they will understand the software, the network requirements, the hardware requirements, and environment test data requirement that they require to interact with the web elements. So this is test plan, automation test plan. Then we have the automation design phase. Here we prepare the automation design document, in which they will select which framework they need to work on. Like first, there are different types of frameworks, like the data driven framework, the hybrid framework. So you need to decide which framework you need to select, and they will also identify the test data for the web elements. After we decide the automation design or the framework that we have decided, we need to implement it. That is, we have the test automation development. That is, we have to create test scripts, you have to execute it, and we need to create a build, we need to execute the framework that we are selecting. That is test automation development. After you have developed, you need to create automation release notes, in which they will contain the documentation, scripts, and summary reports, and etc. Like you have developed it, you have automated that feature, right? Those 20 features where they are automated. So you need to create a document like in which what type of framework you have used, what are the network requirements, what are the software and hardware requirements, and what are the scripts, and everything in the summary, proper summary report is being given. That is a test delivery stage. And after that, you have handed all the reports and scripts and everything, you sign off the project. That is the project closure. So this is the entire process of software or testing lifecycle, in which we have the KT session first. That is, the manual testers give the KT sessions to the automation testers, explaining the features and functionalities. And then we have the test automation requirement, in which we prioritize our manual test cases, and we need to understand what are the web elements we need to interact. Then we have the test plan and estimate, where we can we can make the test plan, the automation test plan for the software, hardware requirements. Then we will select the framework which we need to work on. We will implement those framework. We will create test script, execute it, and prepare a proper documentation and give it to the team. So this is the entire software testing life cycle. I hope you have understood everything. So moving to the next topic is manual testing and its challenges. Now see, basically there are two challenges in manual testing. One is retesting, and the second is regression testing. So what is retesting? Let us first understand what is retesting. Now retesting is done to make sure that the test cases which failed in the last execution are passing after those failures are fixed. It's called retesting. Let us take up an example. Suppose we have a username field and a password field. Okay, you need to perform manual testing on these fields. So what will they be? Like suppose we write a test case where we need to verify that the user enters valid username, valid password, then verify that the user enters invalid username and valid password, verify that the user enters invalid username and valid password, verify that the user enters valid username and invalid password. Like there can be many test cases. Let us assume there are like 5 test cases in the first build. Let us take this is build 1. Build 1. Okay. So now after testing, obviously we match the expected result and the actual result, and we pass a status to it. That is the pass or fail. So let us assume that the test case 1 is passed, test case 2 is failed, test case 3 is again failed. We are just assuming test case 4 is passed and the test case 5 is failed. Now the test cases which are failed are the test case 2, test case 3 and test case 5. These all are failed. In terms of manual testing, we call it as defect. So what will happen if a defect has been found? Obviously the tester will prepare a defect report and they give it to the development team. The development team fixes those bugs, fixes those defects, and they give it to the tester to test it. Okay, this is the entire process. So once it is given to the tester, what the tester will do? Tester is having the build 2. What they will do? They will test the failed test cases like the test case 2, test case 3, test case 5, and if it is a new build, obviously there will be some more functionality or some build have been changed, so they might add up some test cases, or we can just assume that there is some test cases that is added. So now they will execute it. These test cases, like they will match the expected result and the actual result, and they'll pass a status to it. So the status they have passed, like test case 2 is passed, test case 3 is again failed, test case 5 is again failed, test case 6 is failed. So now what will happen? Again, test case 3, test case 5, test case 6, again they are failed. They will be given to the development team, they fix it, and then again it will give it to the tester. Again it is build 3 and the test cases are again executed. The expected result and the actual result are again matched. That is the test case 3, test case 5, test case 6, and again it is a new build, so more test cases are added and so on. This goes on. This is called as retesting. Why it is called as retesting? Because we are making sure that the test cases which were built in the last execution, like here you can see the test cases that were failed in the last execution, which were the test cases which were failed in build 1. The test case 2, test case 3, test case 5, these were the test cases which were built in build 1. Then in build 2, test case 3, test case 5 and test case 6 were failed. So what are you doing? We are retesting it, right? In build 2 again we have retested test case 2, test case 3 and test case 5. Even though test case 3 and 5 were failed, but we are retesting it, right? Retesting is to make sure that the test cases which were failed in the last execution are passing after those failures are fixed. That is called retesting. Now let us understand what is regression testing. Now here same we have the username and the password field, and we have the build one that is given by the development team. We have test case 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 test cases, let us assume, in which the test case 2, in which we have the test case 2, test case 3 and test case 5 are failed. Now what is regression testing? Regression testing is to carry out to confirm whether a recent program or a code change has not affected the existing features. What I'm trying to say is that when we get the build 2, there is a code change, right? The developer has changed the code because those test cases were failed. It was not as per the requirement. So they have changed the code, right? The build 2 is changed. What is regression testing? Regression testing is done for the past test cases also. Like here you can see test cases 2, test case 3 and test case 5 are failed. But the test case 1 and test case 4 are passed, right? So we will do manual testing for all the test cases which are passed as well as failed. Why? Because we need to see that code change is not affecting the existing features. What if suppose we got the build 2, these are the test cases like the test case 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 5, same functionality that the username and password. How will we do regression testing? Regression testing will be conducted for the past test cases also. That is, the test case 1 will also be tested, test case 2, test case 3, test case 4 and test case 5. All the test cases will be tested. There's nothing like failed test case or past test case. Why? Because there's a code change and we need to test that code change is not affecting the existing features. Now what if after the code change the test case 1 is failed, the test case 2 is failed, test case 3 is passed, the test case 4 is passed and the test case 5 is failed? What if this happens? Again, test case 1, test case 2, test case 5 are failed, right? So they will be tested, and test case 3 and test case 4, they will also be tested. Do you get it? This is called as regression testing. I hope you have understood the concept of regression testing and retesting. Let me tell you the difference between the two. Retesting is done only for failed test cases. Retesting is done only for failed test cases. Whereas regression testing is done for past test cases as well as failed test cases. Okay, this is the main difference between the regression testing and the retesting. And the purpose behind retesting is done on the basis of defect fixing. We just need to fix the defect. There is no more other intention behind doing retesting. What is that? Defect fixing. That's it. Whereas in regression testing, we are testing that the changes should not have any side effect on the existing features, on the existing feature. This is the major difference between the retesting and the regression testing. Retesting is done for the failed test cases, whereas regression testing is done for the past as well as the failed test cases. The purpose behind the retesting is the defect fixing, whereas the purpose behind regression testing is that there should not be any side effect on the existing feature. This is the difference between the retesting and regression testing. Now, these are the major challenges of manual testing. Because of this, it has increased a lot of time. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of manpower. Now, here we just have 5 test cases. So, what if there's a big functionality? There might be 100 or 120 test cases or 200 test cases. So it takes a lot of time, money, cost, and there's not efficient output also. That is the reason why automation testing came into picture. Now in the previous tutorial, we saw what were the challenges faced in manual testing. That is the retesting and regression testing. Also we saw the difference between the two. Now let's see how does the automation tool work. We will also understand how does it overcome the challenges in manual testing. So let's get started. Now we have some manual test cases here. And here we have the application that we need to test. Now if we have to do manual testing, how will we do it? We will take each and every step and execute that step on the application that we have. We need to match the actual result and the expected result. If both are exactly the same, then the step is passed. Then the test case will be passed. And if they're not, they are failed. This is the entire manual testing process. Okay? Like if you have any application and your manager says you to do manual testing on this application. The process will be that you will take each and every step, execute that step on the application, and then you will match your actual result and expected result. If they are matching, then the test case is passed, and if they are not, then the test case is failed. This is the entire manual testing process. For example, suppose you have a test case. Verify that the login button is navigated to the login page or not. This is your test case. What will be the steps to this? Launch the browser, navigate to the URL, click on login. After clicking on login, you will get navigated to the login page. That will be your expected result. Okay. Your expected result will be login page is navigated. Now remember, always remember, the expected result is written only after understanding the SRS. When you understand the SRS, whenever you have to test an application, you will be given an SRS. You need to understand that SRS. After understanding, you will write the expected result. The expected result will be written in the SRS. You need to write that expected result at the time of writing the test cases itself. But the actual result is written at the time of the execution of the steps on the applications. Okay, like whenever you execute the step, like when you will execute launch the browser, navigate to the URL, click on the login, then only whatever result that you're getting, that you will write as the actual result. And when this expected and actual result is matched, then the test case is passed, and if they're not, then they are failed. This is how the manual testing will go. And we need to first understand these steps, execute them on the application. We need to match the result and write the status as pass or fail. This is how manual testing goes. Now let us see how does the automation testing works. First, we need to have the manual test cases to know the entire flow. Okay. Then the application to be tested. Now suppose we are having this automation tool also. This automation tool plays a very important role because we are understanding how the automation testing flow goes. So this automation tool can be Selenium or any other automation tool. I'm just telling in general how the automation testing goes, okay? The flow of it. And we have an automation tester. The automation tester is the one which need to interact with the tool, right? As an automation tester, what will you do? You will interact with the tool. Like suppose if you have assumed this automation tool as Selenium, okay? So you have to interact with the tool. As an automation tester, you have to write commands on Selenium, and you need to interact with the tool and perform some methods or some test cases that were written in the manual test cases, okay? So as an automation tester, first thing, you need to interact with the tool. And as a tester, automation tester, each and every manual testing steps that are written in there needs to be communicated to the tool. Okay. See, your automation means that you need to tell the computer what it needs to do. Like you have a manual test case like launch the browser. So as an automation tool, just assume you are using Selenium, then what will you do? You will write the command to launch the browser as an automation tester. Now once we write the steps, the tool can understand that these steps and actions, and they will perform the actions according to the steps that are written on it. Like here we are writing launch the browser, so this command will be executed through this automation tool. So basically, as the automation tester, your role is to convert the manual test cases into automation script format. Okay. Now see, your test cases will be written in some English language, means like you have the manual test cases, they are written in the English language, but how will the automation tool understand that language? That is automation, that is machine, right? So how will they understand? So obviously we need to give some commands to the tool, perform certain actions, and then they will execute it. Now how will we give commands, and what is this language? In what language will we give? This language can be Java, Python, C#, anything, okay? Depends on the tool that we are selecting. As an automation tester, you have to master some programming language also like Java and C#. But if you're doing Selenium, the prerequisite is that you should know Java, Python, whatever the supporting languages are there, you need to know those languages. So I will instruct, so as an automation tester, you will instruct the tool the steps that are written in the manual testing in the Java language. Like this, you have the launch the browser. You will write it in Java language, some commands are written, so there are some predefined commands. You need to execute that, you need to write that, and then it will execute it, right? Like for example, let me tell you, I have to match the password and the confirm password field. And then only the form will be submitted once they are matched. Like suppose if I write confirm password, password as 123 and confirm password as 123, both of them are matching, those fields are matching, then only my form will be submitted. I need to write this command in Java language. So I have to basically create a logic and write it, and then it will execute it. That's what the automation tool does. Okay. So the main role of an automation tester is that first, it will understand the manual test cases. Then he will convert those manual test cases into the automation scripts. And the tool will understand the script and perform the actions on the application. So this is how the automation tool works. Now let us see how does the automation tool overcome the challenges of manual testing. Okay. Now basically there are two challenges in manual testing. One is the retesting. The second is the regression testing. Let us see retesting first. See, in case of retesting, what we will do is that we will add the test data in the Excel file. We will do this. This is called as data-driven testing. We will apply this logic by using Excel files and everything. So we will do this. We will perform this. First, we will add the test data in the Excel file, and then we will create automation script. Okay. This script will read the data from the Excel file and execute it. Like suppose, let me take, I have a login functionality in which I have the username and password field. So for this, we have many test data like username programming knowledge, password 123, like username in caps lock programming knowledge, password admin @123. Like this, we can create many test data. The test data will be written in the SRS itself. Okay. So, but if we want to retest it, like retesting will be that we will retest the login functionality again and again with different test data. So this challenge of retesting is overcome because we will add the test data in the Excel file, and then we will create this automation script. This script will read the data from the Excel file, like it will read programming knowledge, password 123, it will execute it. Pass or fail, it will write that. Then again, this use test data that is in caps lock programming knowledge, and then password admin @123, this is executed. it's passed or failed, that will also be specified. So it is retesting the login functionality again and again with different test data. So the challenge of retesting is overcome. It is not even time consuming, and it takes not a lot of it does not take a lot of effort also, and it reduces the manpower also. Now let's see in case of regression testing. Now let us assume that we have some different builds like the login, the search, the registration, and many other builds. Okay, so what is regression testing? So regression testing means to check whether that there is a code change in code is affecting the existing functionality or not. I have explained what is regression testing and the retesting in the previous lectures. You can check that video. So now we will understand how is it overcoming this challenge. Suppose this login build. Now this build is stable. Okay, we have done manual test cases and have been performed on this build, and all the test cases are passed. So we can automate it now. We have automated all the test cases of login build. Okay. Next, search. Here this is the new build. Okay, it's not that stable. Now how will we overcome regression testing? What we'll do is, whatever test cases that are passed, we will automate it. Okay, and the test cases that are failed will be fixed. All those test cases which are failed, that are called as defect, it will be fixed by the developer and then given for manual testing. We will perform manual testing, and once those failed test cases are passed, then it is automated. Now regression testing means what? We need to check whether there is a code change, whether any code change is affecting the existing functionality or not. There is a code change because we have found some failed test cases in the search build. Those are fixed by the developer, and again we do manual testing. And once those failed test cases are passed, we will automate it. Okay, so here you have already written the test script for login. Plus, now you have written the test script of search functionality which were passed. So you are checking that if search is added, is it affecting the login? And when those failed test cases are passed, we will automate those test scripts as well. And then we will check, is this code change affecting the existing functionality or not? So basically what you're checking the login functionality, plus you're checking the search build past test cases first, plus those failed test cases which were fixed, we automate that also. We will check it and we will see that is it affecting any of the functionalities or not. So you see, here we are saving a lot of time. So all these tasks are done manually, and it will take if all these tasks are done manually, then it will take a lot of time. So that's why automation is required in regression testing and retesting, and we're going to study about Selenium. Selenium will test regression. It tests the functional testings, tests the functional test cases and the regression test cases as well. So this way automation testing will overcome the challenges of retesting and regression testing. So far we have covered what are the requirements to become an automation tester. That is, you must know manual testing and have some technical skills also as an automation tester. You need to know the business requirements and different methodologies used in the companies. Then we have studied what is testing. Testing can be done in two types, that is the manual testing and the automation testing. Then I have explained the what is automation testing and test automation, the difference between the two. Then the most important thing we have studied is the automation testing life cycle, in which I have explained which test cases should be manually tested and which should be automated. Then we saw what are the challenges faced in manual testing, that is the retesting and the regression testing. That is why the automation testing came into picture, and the difference between the retesting and the regression testing. Then we studied how the automation tool will overcome this challenge and how does any automation tool work. So in the previous tutorial, we learned how does an automation tool work and how does it overcome the challenges in manual testing. In this tutorial, we will learn about the Selenium framework, why is it called as a framework, and what are its advantages and disadvantages and its components. So let's get started. Now here as an automation tool, we will be studying the Selenium WebDriver. For this, you need to have some prior knowledge about the Java, and I have also explained what are the requirements of an automation tester. I will give the link in the description box. So when you go for an interview as an automation tester, the very first question that comes to you is, what is Selenium? See, this is very important. Before mastering your skills in Selenium, you need to know what is Selenium, its components, its advantages and disadvantages, and what are the different types of frameworks. So we will be studying about Selenium today. So first, let us understand what is Selenium. Selenium is a portable framework for testing web applications. Now here there are three terms to understand in this definition. One is portable, second is framework, third is web application. Now what is portable? Portable in general, it means to be easily transported or relocated. That is the meaning of portable. Now what is framework? Framework, we can divide the word framework into two parts, frame plus work. That is, we work in a frame, like here you can see this house, right? This is a house frame or a basic structure or a supporting structure. With the help of this structure, we will be able to build a house. So this is a framework. So framework just gives us the basic structure which will add our code for greater functionality of the system. Now you must be thinking, why do we use framework? We use framework for reusability, and we don't need to build things from scratch. Like suppose, let us take up an example. If you're making a dynamic web page, and what will you do? You will create folders like suppose index.html, then style.css, validate.php, and etc. See, the problem here is not that you have to create folders, but the problem is that you have to follow the same process again and again. But if you use a framework, we don't have to worry about that. You just need to code your logic and that's it. So that's framework. Framework just gives us the basic structure round which we will add our code for greater functionality of the system. Okay, that's framework. Next, we have web applications. Now there are basically three types of applications: web-based application, desktop application, and mobile applications. Web-based applications are applications that can be accessed through browsers. That is like the online forms, the registration forms. Those are online-based applications. Then we have the desktop application. The desktop applications are the applications in which we install in the local system. For example, the Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint. That's your desktop application. Mobile applications are applications we install in our mobile through a Play Store. We download some apps like WhatsApp, Flipkart, Amazon. Those are mobile applications. Now Selenium is a portable framework for testing only web applications. Selenium tests only web applications. That is the application that can be accessed through browsers. This also serves as a limitation, but we will discuss that later. So moving forward, why Selenium? First thing, we will choose Selenium because of cost. Selenium is free, it is open source. As compared to the other tools like QTP and UFT, they are paid. The second point is flexibility. Selenium supports multiple programming languages like Java, C#, Python, Ruby, and many more. Whereas if you go to some other tool like QTP, it supports only VB-script. Next is the multiple browsers. Selenium supports multiple browsers like Chrome, Firefox, Safari, and many more. Whereas if you take QTP as a Selenium tool, it supports only Chrome. It also supports multiple OS like Windows, Linux, Apple, and many more. The main important point is that why are we using Selenium? Because it supports parallel testing. Now let me tell you what is parallel testing. The browser will execute the commands in two ways. One is the parallel execution. Second is the cross-browser execution. Now here you see on the screen parallel execution. Let us understand that first. Parallel executions are execution in which the test scripts opens all the browser at the same time and executes at the same time. It's called as parallel execution. Here you can see there is a test scripts. Then you can see there are 3 browsers over here. The first one is Chrome, the second is the Firefox, the third is the Internet Explorer. So the test script will open all the browser at the same time and execute it at the same time. This is parallel execution. I will explain it with an example. Just wait. First understand what is cross-browser execution. Cross-browser execution. Let us take up an example. Like suppose in the test script over here, it is written to insert some value in the drop-down menu. So this command will be first executed in the Chrome browser. When the execution is finished, that is when the value is inserted in the drop-down menu, then the Firefox browser will be opened. And the command to insert the value in the drop-down box will be executed. And when that command is executed, then the Internet Explorer will be opened and the command will be executed. So this is called cross-browser execution. That means the test script will open the Chrome browser first. After 2-3 minutes when the execution is done, it opens the Firefox browser. And then after some time, it will open the Internet Explorer browser. This is cross-browser execution. Whereas in parallel execution, if we have the same command to insert some value in the drop-down menu, then this command will be executed in all the browsers at the same time. This is parallel execution. And Selenium supports parallel execution. Now let's move a little deeper towards the Selenium. We will study the Selenium components which comprises of the Selenium suite. Total we have the 4 components like the IDE, RC, WebDriver and Grid. Let us discuss IDE first. Now the Selenium IDE is the most simplest tool in the entire suites of Selenium. It is nothing but an integrated development environment. See, earlier this IDE was simply just a Firefox extension and it's just a play around tool. Like, you just play record functionality. Mainly it is used for prototyping and it is used only for demo purposes. You cannot use IDE for creating automation real-time projects because of its some limitations. We will discuss those limitations later. Then the next component is the RC, that is the Selenium remote control. It is used to write web application tests in different programming languages. It interacts with the browser with the help of the RC server, through which we can interact to the web browser. But this RC server got deprecated in the Selenium version 2 and was replaced by the WebDriver in the Selenium version 3. We will discuss that also, why it happened. The next component is the Selenium WebDriver. The Selenium WebDriver is one of the most important component in the Selenium suites. It is an API to create and execute the test cases and it is a successor of RC. Basically, the Selenium WebDriver is a collection of open source API and which will be used to automate the testing of a web application. As I said, we will study the Selenium WebDriver very deeply. The next component is Grid. The Selenium Grid is used to run multiple test scripts simultaneously on the different browser and platforms. And it supports parallel testing. What is parallel testing? I explained in the previous slide. So because of Grid, we can Selenium supports parallel testing. So these are the 4 components in Selenium. Let us discuss the drawbacks of IDE. The first drawback. Selenium IDE is a Mozilla Firefox plugin, which means the tests can be recorded only in the Firefox browser and not in any other browser. Second, it's not suitable for dynamic web pages, because it is just a prototyping tool which works well only with the static web pages and not with the dynamic web pages. Third, data-driven testing is not possible. Fourth, cannot provide detailed test reports, whereas RC, the next version of IDE, can provide detailed reports. Then we cannot perform database testing through IDE, same because it is just a prototyping tool, it is used for demo and it is not used for automating web applications. Due to these drawbacks, RC came into picture. Now we have discussed the components of Selenium. Let's see the versions of Selenium. Here we have total 4 versions: Selenium version 1, Selenium version 2, 3 and 4. Now see, here we will dig into some history of the Selenium. Here the Selenium version 1, we have the Selenium IDE, RC plus grid. So when Jason Huggins introduced the Selenium, the tool was called as a JavaScript program. He called it as a JavaScript test runner. But he had one major issue that is called as the same origin policy. So now you must be thinking that what is this same origin policy? This policy says that when JavaScript is executed in the domain, it can access the web pages in that domain only, and it cannot access any other web page in the another domain. For example, suppose like a web page in the Google, like if you have a domain google.com, okay, so you can access the search bar, the email, the drive, but that can be accessible, but nothing can be accessible outside the google.com. Like if you want to access Yahoo, Myntra or Amazon or any other domain, that cannot be accessible. Definitely this is because of some security reasons, so that is why this is called as the same origin policy. Now to overcome this policy, remote control server was designed, that is the Selenium RC. Now the main reason to create this server was to trick the browser in believing that the Selenium code in which we are running the scripts and the web application under test are in the same domain. Now here this same origin policy is solved. So this was the version 1 of Selenium, where we have the IDE, RC and grid, where the same origin policy was solved in the version 1. Then comes the Selenium version 2. Here we have the IDE, the WebDriver, the RC and the grid. See, in 2007 when Simon Stewart, he invented this WebDriver. Now why did he invent this WebDriver? Because the architecture of the RC was very complicated. And in RC, we need a separate server to talk to this. Like we need a separate server to talk to the browser. So what he did is, he removed the requirement of the separate server, and this is the Selenium version 2, where the WebDriver was introduced. Now why, you must be thinking like why WebDriver and RC is introduced over here in the version 2? Because the WebDriver was in the development phase and they were trying to implement it. So that is the reason why we have in the Selenium version 2 the IDE, the WebDriver, the RC and the grid. So in the Selenium version 3, we had the IDE, WebDriver and grid. Here you see that the RC was completely deprecated and we only have the WebDriver. Currently we have the Selenium version 4. There have many new features. This is the new version of Selenium 4 and now it is still in development. Recently there was a version known as alpha version was introduced, and this version was mainly introduced because of complete W3C protocol adoption. But this change in protocol isn't going to impact any of the user, because many major of the browser drivers like the Firefox, the Chrome driver, and they all are included in the Selenium 3.8 version, which we are going to use. And I will be also explaining, explaining some of the features of the Selenium 4th version. We will do that also. Like there are many ways to take screenshot in the Selenium 4 version. There are 2 to 3 methods. So there are new APIs added. There are some ways to access the web elements also, and there are some of the features that are very new introduced in the Selenium version. So mainly we will be studying about the Selenium WebDriver. Now you must be thinking, why Selenium WebDriver? Now why are we studying the Selenium WebDriver? For that we need to know the drawbacks of the Selenium RC. Now this is the architecture of the Selenium RC. This is the main reason why we are studying the WebDriver. So the Selenium RC is a test tool that allows you to write automated web applications in various programming languages like Java, Python, Ruby. So let's see the architecture of Selenium RC. First, we need to write the test scripts in supported languages like Java, Python or any other supported language. But before writing these test scripts, the major requirement in RC is the RC server. So first you need to start the RC server before you run a code, and this RC server is a separate application. This RC is responsible for receiving the Selenium command from your test scripts. It interprets them and then reports the result back to the script. Now I use the word Selenium over here. Now what is the Selenium commands? They are nothing but the commands that are written in the test scripts are called as Selenium commands. In IDE and RC they are called as Selenium commands. Now let's look at the browser interaction. How the browser interacts. The browser interactions happens through the RC server. This RC server is a simple HTTP post and HTTP GET request to communicate, okay? It uses the simple HTTP post and GET request to communicate to the browser. Now how this communication happens? This RC server acts like a proxy. Now you see there's a complete cycle starting from your test script, then the RC server injects the JavaScript in the web browser, runs your commands, takes back the results, sends it to the RC server, and then the result is displayed. This whole cycle gets repeated for each and every command which is written in the test scripts. This is how the test case gets executed in the RC server. Like the Selenium RC tool, this is how the whole cycle goes for each and every test scripts. Now everything was good, but why was RC not good enough to run test scripts? Let me tell you why. What are those drawbacks? First, time taken for execution of command is longer. Why? Because there is an additional server RC so it executes each and every command is executed through the RC. So it takes a lot of time for execution. The APIs supported by RC are redundant and confusing because one command means many meaning. It has a lot of meaning for one command. Like suppose there is a command called as click and click at. So which one to use? It's very confusing for the developers. Then there is complicated architecture. RC consists of an additional server that acts as a middleman. Also the mobile apps cannot be tested using RC. So these are the drawbacks of RC. Now let's see how does Selenium WebDriver overcome these drawbacks. For this we need to understand the architecture of the WebDriver. So in the WebDriver architecture we have the test scripts, the web browser and the web server. However, we do not have an additional server for communication like the RC server, which we saw in the Selenium RC, which makes the architecture of the WebDriver very, very easy because we don't have an additional server in this. As you can see, there are direct interactions with the web browser. So as an advantage, the Selenium does not use an additional server. And since there is no intermediate server there, then the browser is controlled directly from the system. Due to this direct communication, the overall cycle that we saw in the RC server which was very indirect communication. Since this indirect communication made the execution very slow, so that's why we have the WebDriver in which the execution is faster than the RC server. As you can see, the execution time for command is shorter due to this simple architecture. Now you have seen the architecture of RC and WebDriver. Let's compare the Selenium RC and the Selenium WebDriver. Let's see in terms of API. Now RC is less object-oriented API. Now the API in RC is very confusing and redundant. For example, we have commands like click or click at commands. Which one to use? So it was very confusing for the developers, and the direct browsers interpreted different commands also, which was very challenging for the developers working on different browsers. For different browsers there were different commands. So it was very challenging. Whereas for Selenium WebDriver, it is very simpler API and it is very easier to use. For example, we have the click function to click on the web element. We have the send key command to send text on any web element in the web page. So it has a very simpler API. Now let's see in terms of speed. Selenium RC is slow in execution. And in terms of speed, WebDriver is faster in execution. Because in Selenium RC, we have the RC server, whereas in WebDriver, there is no additional server. Next, let's see in terms of browser support. See, RC and WebDriver supports multiple browsers, but RC does not have support for HTML unit, which is a headless browser. Now, let's see what is this headless browser. Headless browser is a browser which does not have a UI. This helps to make testing more faster. because it does not need a real browser for testing. It does not take time to load the web elements. So, and the headless browser is very quick. So RC and WebDriver, they support multiple browser, but RC does not support HTML unit, that is the headless browser, whereas the WebDriver supports the headless browser, and it makes the execution more faster. Next, we have the comparison in terms of testing mobile applications. Selenium RC does not support testing of mobile applications, whereas Selenium WebDriver, it supports testing of mobile applications. There is an application name as APM through which we can test mobile applications. So these were the difference between the RC and the WebDriver. But every component has its own drawbacks. So let us see the drawbacks of WebDriver. One, cannot readily support new browsers, but RC can. And it does not have a built-in command for automatic generation of test results. See, it cannot readily support new browsers. There are many new versions coming up. So this challenge can be overcome. Second, we don't have built-in commands for automatic generation of test results, whereas in RC we can generate test results. There is a proper format in RC, whereas in WebDriver we don't. But we can use a third-party tool. We can integrate third-party tools for the test results generation. So now we will discuss some advantages and disadvantages of Selenium. Advantages of Selenium. Selenium is an open source tool, and it supports multiple operating systems and multiple browsers like Chrome, Safari, Internet Explorer, and many more. It also supports multiple programming languages like Java, Python, C#, Ruby, etc. Apart from all this, we can also integrate the third-party tools in Selenium like Apache POI, AutoIT, SQL, and why do we need to integrate this? We will understand that in the next slide. Here you see the disadvantages of Selenium. The first disadvantage is that it cannot support window-based application. It can only support the web-based application. But to overcome this disadvantage, we can use a third-party tool, that is the AutoIT or the SQL tool. The second is that it cannot support test reports, but if we integrate TestNG or extend reports, through that we can generate test reports. Third, cannot support Excel files. Now you must be thinking, why do we use Excel files? We use Excel files while we are doing the data-driven testing. We use it because suppose there is a username and a password field, and there are many test data to it. Like for username, you have the admin. For password, you have admin@123. That's one test data. The second test data, third, fourth. So like this, there can be many test data. To check the expected and the output result, we will match it, and then we will pass the status as fail or pass. So matching those and results and communicating the test scripts to the Excel files, that Selenium cannot support that. But through Apache POI, we can do it. Next, we have less or no technical support in Selenium, because Selenium is an open source tool, so there is very less or technical support. But there are many forums and communities on internet wherever you can write your queries and you can get your answers. Then writing test cases are sometimes very time consuming because it is just a programming interface and not an IDE. See, whereas if you go in other tools like the QTP and UFT, those are IDE as well as the programming interface. That means you can record also. You can record also the test scripts that you have written. Whereas over here, it is just a programming interface. Each and every command needs to be written. So at times it becomes very time consuming. So these are the disadvantages of Selenium. Till now, we have learned what is Selenium, why is it called as a framework. We have learned the versions of Selenium, their components, their drawbacks, and why are we studying the WebDriver. We have also learned what are the advantages and disadvantages. So in the next tutorial, in the next video, we will learn the installation part of Selenium, and then we will start the implementation of Selenium. So today we're going to install the IntelliJ IDEA IDE and some drivers and jar files for Selenium framework on Windows 10. So let's get started. So open your Google and type IntelliJ IDEA IDE. The very first link that we see is the www.jetbrains.com. So click on this link. The IntelliJ IDEA is an integrated development environment, that is the IDE, which is written in Java for developing the computer software, and it was developed by the JetBrains. Now, apart from all this, IntelliJ IDEA IDE also has features like we have the built-in tools, we have the JVM languages like Java, Kotlin, Scala, Groovy, and also it supports some of the frameworks like the Spring, Java EE, and it supports the mobile development and web development as well, like the HTML, CSS, Angular, Node.js. So these are some of the features of IntelliJ IDEA IDE. In terms of system requirement, we need a RAM of 2 GB minimum, and disk space that we require is of 3 GB of space. And also, before installing the IntelliJ IDEA IDE, we have to install the JDK first. So all we need to do is first type JDK download. Now I haven't installed the JDK. I'll show you. Go to CMD and I'll type Java space dash version. Here you can see I haven't installed my JDK. It says that Java is not recognized as an internal or external command or operable program or batch file. I will run this command again after installing my JDK. So I'll close this, and here you see we have the www.oracle.com. Click on this link. And we have different versions of Java JDK. We have the Java SE 15, we have the Java SE 14, and we have the Java SE 11. We're going to download the latest one. Click on JDK download. Now, if you have Mac OS, if you're using Mac OS, you can install installer. You can click this one. And if you're using Windows, then you can click this one. So I'm using Windows, so I click this file. Now here you must accept the license agreement for Oracle Java SE, which says I reviewed and accept the Oracle Technology Network license agreement for Oracle Java SE. You have to simply just click on this checkbox and click on download JDK 15. So now here you can see that my Java JDK has been downloaded. So all I'll need to do is I'll just click on this. So click on next. So this is the place where your Java JDK will be saved. Let it be this way and click on next. And here you can see that it is getting installed. It will take some time, so wait for it. So here you can see that my Java SE Development Kit 15 has been successfully installed. So I'll click close, and here I'll type CMD again. Just simply type Java space dash version, and here you can see Java version 15, Java SE runtime build 15 is been installed. This shows that you have successfully installed your Java JDK 15, and if it's not coming this way, and if you type this command and this is not the output of it, you need to go through the steps again and install it again. So now we have installed our Java JDK on our system. So we're going to set the environment variable. Simply just type environment variable, and here you can see edit the system environment variable. Click on this. Here you can see environment variable, right? Click on environment variable. Here you'll see system variables. In this system variable window, click on path and click edit. So click on new, and here we're going to enter the path. How are you going to do it? So just go on C drive, go to program files, and here you can see Java. Go to Java, go to JDK 15, go to the bin folder and copy this path and paste it over here. So this is going to be the new system environment variable. Click OK and click OK and click OK. So you have set your environment variables as well. So we can install the IntelliJ IDEA IDE now. Simply go to the official website of IntelliJ IDEA IDE and go to download. Here we have two versions, the ultimate version and the community version. And if you're using Windows, go to Windows, and if you're using Mac, then click on Mac, and if you're using Linux, then click on Linux. So I'm using Windows, so I'll be clicking on Windows, and we're going to download the community version. Simply just click on download. And here you can see that my IntelliJ IDEA, the IDE, the community version is getting downloaded. So now here you can see that my IntelliJ IDEA, the community version, has been downloaded. So click on this, click on next, click next. So over here, create desktop shortcut, yes, for the 64-bit, and update context menu. I'll click add open folder as a project. Then create associations. I don't want to create any associations for now. Then update path variable, that is the restart needed, and add launchers dir to the path. I'll click on this checkbox as well, and I'll click next. Then I'll click on install. And here you can see that the IntelliJ IDEA IDE, the community version, is getting installed. And just click on finish. So here you can see that the IntelliJ IDEA IDE, the community version, has been installed, and I have created a shortcut desktop icon over here. So I'll just click on this, and I'll click I confirm that I have read and accepted the terms of this user agreement, and I'll click continue. Data sharing, I'll just click don't send. I don't want to share data sharing. So this is the UI theme. I'll click the light one, go to next, just go to next, go to next. Okay, so click on new project. Here click on Java, and here you can see that we have the Java version 15 because you have downloaded the JDK, so it will be visible here. And if you have not downloaded the JDK, it will show that link to download JDK, like here you can see over here download JDK. So I have downloaded, so it's showing 15, Java version 15 has been downloaded JDK. Just click on next, create project from template, click next. So I'll just write hello world. So let's run a program over here. I'll simply write s out, and here you can see, like if I write s out, is system out.println. So this IntelliJ IDEA IDE has a very cool feature of auto completing it. Like if I write s out, it's in system out.println, and there are many more shortcuts to this. We will learn as and on we keep on programming, we'll keep learning it. So I'll just write hello world, and I'll click on this button, that is the run main. Click on it, and here you can see here it's hello world. So we have installed the Java JDK, we have set the variable path also, and then we have installed the IntelliJ IDEA IDE, and we executed a program and it's successfully executed. So we're done with the installation of the JDK and the IntelliJ IDEA IDE. Now we have to install the jar files and some of the drivers that we require for the browsers for the Selenium framework. So all we need to do is just go to the official web page of Selenium, that is the Selenium HQ. Here you see we have the www.selenium.dev. Click on this, click on downloads, and here we have the Selenium client and WebDriver language bindings. See, to create Selenium WebDriver scripts, you need to make use of language-specific client drivers. Now, as we know, Selenium supports many languages like Ruby, Java, Python, C#, and JavaScript. So, for every language, we have the specific client drivers. For Ruby, we have some client drivers. For Java, we have some client drivers. So, we'll be using Java. We'll be doing Selenium with Java. So here you can see we have the stable version for Java is 3.141.59, and the latest release that we have, the alpha release 4. I have discussed about the Selenium versions also in the previous tutorial, so you can check out that. So we're going to do with Java, Selenium with Java. So simply click on download. So here you can see we have the zip file of Selenium Java. I'm going to extract it. And here we have the executable jar files. So it is recommended that you create a separate folder for the Selenium jar files and the drivers. So I'll be creating a separate folder of jar files and drivers. Just create it on any drive like C drive or D drive or somewhere, because we're going to download many jar files and many drivers. So locating them, and it will be placed in somewhere, and then locating them and finding them at that point of time will be very hard. So just simply make a folder over here. I'll be naming Selenium jars and drivers. Create a folder in Selenium jars and drivers. I'll name it jars, and I'll create a separate folder also, name it drivers. And in drivers, we're going to install the Chrome driver and the Firefox driver. So we'll make the folders for that as well. Let's make things very systematic, because if we don't do it, then it will be very problematic. So this way we have created a new folder in our D drive, that is the Selenium jars and drivers. So we have downloaded jar files. Let's check that out. We have the first two jar files over here. We're going to copy it and place it over here. Then again over here, go to libs, and we have the jar files here also. So we're going to copy it here, and here it is. So we're going to add these jar files now to our IDE. So just create a new project for Selenium, Java next. I'll name it as Selenium. I'll change the package name to Selenium, and I'll click finish. So here it is. Now we're going to add the jar files that we have downloaded. Simply go on file, go to project structure, must accept, okay, just click on accept, and go to modules. Here you can see dependency tab, go to dependency, and here you can see there's a plus sign, right? So click on this plus sign, and here you see jars or directories. Click on jars or directories. Go to the drive where you have created your folder. I've created in D drive, and I have named it as Selenium jars and drivers. Go to jars and select all those jars that you have downloaded, and simply just click OK. So here you can see that I have added my jar file over here. So just click on apply, click OK. So here you can see that I can see all my jar files over here in external libraries. Okay, so we have added the jar files also. So now let's download the drivers. So all I need to do is same on Selenium HQ, just go down, and here you can see platform supported by Selenium browsers. click on browsers, and for different browsers we have different drivers. Like for Firefox we have the Gecko driver, for Internet Explorer we have the Internet Explorer driver, for Safari we have the Safari driver, for Chrome we have the Chrome driver. So basically we will perform all our test cases in Chrome driver. We're going to launch the Chrome driver frequently, but in the next tutorial I will explain how to launch drivers like the Firefox driver, the Chrome driver. So for that we need to download the drivers for it. So all we need to do is just click on documentation over here, and here you can see the latest beta version that we have is the Chrome driver 86, and the stable version that we have the 85. Now see, over here you need to check your Chrome browser version first. So what you need to do is go on settings and go to about Chrome, and here you can see your version. It's version 85, and if it is not updated then please update it and then download your driver, because your driver version and your Google browser, the Chrome browser, should match, and if it's not matching, and then your browser will not be launched. So here I have the stable version, that is the 85 version. So I'll be clicking over here, and here you can see this page. If you have Linux, click over here. If you have Mac, click on this link, and if you have Windows, then click on this link. I'm having Windows, so I'll be clicking on this link. Here you can see this is the Chrome driver, this is the zip file. I will extract it. I have the exe file over here. Copy this file and paste it in the folder that you have created in Chrome driver. Same way, we're going to download the Firefox driver. Go to documentation. Here we have different versions of Gecko driver. So what you're going to do is just go to Firefox and check out the version that you have. Simply go on settings, go to general, and here you will see that your updated version, that is the version 81. I'm having 81.0.1. so my Firefox is updated, so I'm going to download the version 81. Just go on Gecko driver release, and here you will see the driver versions. Now I'm having Windows 64-bit, so I'll be clicking this, and if you have Mac then click this, and if you have Linux, so depending upon your operating system, just click. So here you can see we have the Gecko driver. It's a zip folder, so we're going to extract files, and here you can see it is an exe application. We're going to simply copy it and paste it to the folder where you have created your drivers folder in Firefox driver. So today we are going to understand many topics. Like first we are going to create two sets of test cases. We will learn how to launch the browser. Next we will learn how to navigate to a particular URL. We will understand the hierarchy of the interfaces and the classes in the Selenium WebDriver. Also we will understand a particular command, that is the Chrome driver is equal to new Chrome driver. Why is it not called the best practice? Okay, so let's get started. So as we know, before automating any test script, we have to prepare manual test cases first. So first we will create two sets of test cases over here. So the first set, in the first set we will have three test cases. The first test case is open the Chrome browser, or to launch the Chrome browser. Now whenever we create the manual test cases, to open the browser or to launch a browser is the first test case, is always the first test case. Okay, next we're going to navigate to the URL, that is the www.google.com. The third command is close the browser. So these are the three test cases that we are going to execute. One is the open the Chrome browser, that we are going to launch the Chrome browser. Next, we're going to navigate to the URL www.google.com. And the third, we're going to close the browser that we are opening. Okay. This is the first set. In the second set, we're going to launch the Firefox browser. Open the Firefox browser. Next, we're going to navigate to the URL, that is the www.google.com. Next is we're going to close the browser, that is the Firefox browser. Okay, these are the two sets of test cases that we have prepared. We're going to execute these test cases today. As we know that the Selenium supports many browsers like the Firefox browser, the Chrome browser, the Internet Explorer browser, Safari browser. As we have installed the exe file of the Chrome driver and the Firefox driver that we have installed in the previous lecture, so we are going to launch the Chrome driver and the Firefox driver. And since the process is very similar, so once you understand how to launch a particular browser, you can launch any of the browser according to your requirement. Okay, open IntelliJ IDE. So in the previous tutorial, we had included our jar files in a Selenium project. We had created a Selenium project. We included our jar files in that. So we're going to continue in that project itself. So yeah, as we know, so yeah, we have created two sets of test cases. We are going to execute it. How are we going to do that? First thing, we know for Chrome browser, the driver that we require is the Chrome driver, right? That we have installed in our computers. We have installed the Chrome driver and the Firefox driver. So first we will execute for the Chrome driver, and then I will execute the test cases for the Firefox driver. Okay. For the Chrome browser, we require the Chrome driver. So now what we're going to do, first, the very first step that we are having is the open the Chrome browser. This is the first step, right? So how are we going to do that? First thing, we're going to create the object of Chrome driver. Okay, we're going to create the object of Chrome driver. But how do we refer this Chrome driver object? We need to understand the hierarchy of the Selenium WebDriver, which has the classes and the interfaces. So let's understand that first. So this is the diagram that we are having. The Selenium provides a many number of classes and the interfaces, and we need to understand the hierarchy of classes and interfaces. Now, to understand this hierarchy, we need to have a knowledge about the interfaces and the inheritance concept of Java. Now here you can see this diagram, right? In Selenium WebDriver, the search context, the very first interface, these yellow boxes are interfaces and the green boxes are the classes. Okay, so this yellow box, search context, this is the super interface of the WebDriver, and it contains only two methods, that is the find element and the find elements. Yes, these two methods are different. It is not just about a S in find elements. They are different. They are used to find the element on our web page, the web elements that we have, that is the text box, the drop down menu. These commands help to find the web elements on the web page. So we will understand that when we practically implement the test cases, but for now let us understand that the search context, this search context that we have is the super interface and is an interface that contains abstract methods. Now, what are these abstract methods? These methods are these abstract methods are the methods that has no implementation. They have only definition. There is no implementation of abstract methods. They just have the definition. Okay, so this is the search context, that is the super interface, which has the abstract method, find element, and the find elements. Next, we have the WebDriver interface. Okay, the WebDriver interface, which is extended from the search context. Okay, it is extended from the search context. This means that it contains the methods, the abstract methods of find element, and find elements method is also in the WebDriver. Apart from this, it also has the other methods like the get method, the quit method, close, get window handles, and many other methods. Okay, so all these are abstract methods that has only body and there is no implementation. Okay, and so these are the topmost root interface. Apart from this, the WebDriver also has the nested interface. Okay, it also has some nested interfaces like which has windows, navigation, target locator, timeouts option. These are also abstract methods. Through these methods, through these interfaces, we can perform various operations like navigating to the URL, maximizing the window, and many more. Okay, so the WebDriver also includes the nested interfaces. Next, we have the remote WebDriver. This is a fully implemented class, okay, which implements the interface WebDriver. Here you can see it implements the WebDriver interface. Okay, now this WebDriver, remote WebDriver, this remote WebDriver is a fully implemented class. Here you can see it's a fully implemented class where all the abstract methods coming from the search context and the WebDriver are implemented in this particular class. Because obviously when we create abstract classes, right, so these when we create abstract methods, we have to use those methods. You just don't have to keep it, you will use it. That is why there is no implementation and only definition in it. As I said, your core Java knowledge will be required over here to understand this hierarchy. So that is why we need to have the knowledge of inheritance and interfaces of core Java. So the remote WebDriver, so the remote WebDriver contains methods of the search context and the WebDriver. In addition, also it implements a JavaScript executor and takes screenshot. Okay, so it implements these interfaces also, which has abstract methods on its own, and we can implement those abstract methods. So to the conclusion, we can say that the remote WebDriver is a fully implemented class which contains the abstract methods of the WebDriver interface and the search context interface and the take screenshot interface and the JavaScript executor. Okay, so this is about the remote WebDriver. Now here you can see these classes. These classes are the browsers that we have of Selenium. Selenium supports many browsers, you know, right? The Firefox browser, the Internet Explorer browser, the Edge browser, a Safari browser. So the remote WebDriver, it extends these classes, and here you can see these classes are the web browsers that we have, that is the Firefox browser, Internet Explorer browsers. Okay, so now there are various versions of Selenium, as I told in the previous tutorial. From 4th version, here you can see this is Chromium driver and Chrome driver, right? From the 4th version, the Chrome driver extends the Chromium driver. This has happened from the 4th version. They had made some changes. They had included a Chromium driver also, which through which the Chrome driver will get extended. So these were the changes in the 4th release of Selenium. So this is the hierarchy of Selenium class and interface, in which we have the super interface, that is the search context. Then we have the WebDriver interface, which includes nested interfaces also, which has many abstract methods like windows, navigation, target locator, timeouts options. Then we have the remote WebDriver, which implements the interface WebDriver, and it also implements the JavaScript executor and the take screenshot interface. Next we have the browsers. These are the browsers which is supported by the Selenium, and the remote WebDriver extend these classes. These are classes. Okay, remember, the remote WebDriver and these browser are the classes, whereas the search context, WebDriver, nested interfaces, take screenshot, and JavaScript executor are the interfaces. Okay, this is the complete hierarchy of the Selenium class and the interface. So now let's move to the program. So now over here, for opening the Chrome browser, the first thing that we did over here is we created a object of Chrome driver, right? Now, how do we refer this object? Here in the, so remember this Chrome driver is a class, right? As I have shown in the hierarchy, it is a class. Now here, just refer to this hierarchy again, and here we can see that the WebDriver is the parent interface. Here you can see that the WebDriver is the parent interface, and now you must be saying no, the remote WebDriver is the parent. But what am I talking about? I'm talking about the interface. Focus on what I'm saying. I'm talking about interface. The WebDriver is the parent interface and the remote WebDriver is a class. Okay, remote WebDriver is a class and the WebDriver is an interface. So here the parent interface will be WebDriver. So the WebDriver interface will give a reference to the Chrome driver. How? I'm going to write WebDriver. I will give a reference like driver is equal to new Chrome driver. So now here in this command, WebDriver driver is equal to new Chrome driver, we are using the dynamic polymorphism concept, in which the child class object that is the Chrome driver, is referred by the parent interface, that is the WebDriver, through a reference variable, and that reference variable is called as driver. Okay, so this is how we are opening the Chrome browser. So let's run this command first. So our Chrome browser is not launched. Why? Let's see. Here it shows an error which says illegal state exception, which says the path to the driver executable must be set by the WebDriver.Chrome.driver system property. Okay, this is your error. The path to the driver executable must be set by the WebDriver.Chrome.driver system property. So here it says that I have to define a property, a system property, and to define this system property we have a system class. So I will write system dot set property. Now this set property command has two values need to be entered over here. One is the string key and is the string value. In the string key, what we have to enter? It's given over here itself, WebDriver.Chrome.driver. We will simply copy this and paste it over here. This is your string key. Whereas the value will be the path where your executable file is saved. That is the Chrome driver. So in my case, I'll go to D drive, Selenium jars and drivers, and the Chrome driver, because we're launching the Chrome driver. So I will simply just copy this path and I will paste it over here. Change these slashes. Okay, and we're going to include our file name over here. Our file name is Chrome driver. Okay, so we are going to write Chrome driver .exe. Now if you're using Mac, you don't need to write exe because Mac does not support exe files. So there's no requirement to write exe, but if you're using Windows, then you're going to write exe. Okay, we're going to execute this statement now. So here you can see my Chrome browser is launched. You can see this Chrome browser, it is launched, which says Chrome is being controlled by automated test software. Now this Chrome browser and this Chrome browser, the original Chrome browser, these two Chrome browsers are different. Here we cannot see any tab which shows that Chrome browser is being controlled, but over here you can see Chrome is being controlled by automated test software. There's a tab over here. Okay, so this is the difference between the Chrome browser that we are launching through automation and the Chrome browser that we have originally on our computers. So I'll just close this. So we have launched the Chrome browser, and yes, one important question that you must be thinking is by looking at this diagram. Now over here you must be thinking, as I said, that the parent interface is the WebDriver, but here the super parent interface, that is the search context, is also there. So why are we not writing search context driver? Like I'll just write driver1 is equal to new Chrome driver. Now this command is also correct. I'm not saying that this command is wrong, but why are we not writing search context driver is equal to new Chrome driver, and why are we writing WebDriver driver is equal to new Chrome driver? The reason behind this is, refer at this diagram again. Here I have told before that the search context interface contains only two methods, that is the find element and the find elements. So if we are writing search context driver1 is equal to new Chrome driver, it will only have two abstract classes, two abstract methods, that is the find element and the find elements. Whereas if I'm writing WebDriver, it has all those methods like the find element and the find elements also, and all the WebDriver methods as well. So that is the reason why we are writing WebDriver driver is equal to new Chrome driver. Okay. So now the next question that you must be thinking is, okay, we are fine with the search context. We are not, there's no advantage in writing search context because it will have only two methods included in it. That is the find element and the find elements. So why not remote? Why not remote WebDriver? Like we can write remote WebDriver driver is equal to new Chrome driver. This is also possible. But the reason behind why we're not writing remote WebDriver is because the remote WebDriver mechanism, the architecture of the remote WebDriver is very different from the WebDriver. Here there are two reasons. Okay, if we want to use this approach, the remote WebDriver driver 3 is equal to new Chrome driver. If we are using this approach, then this approach is only accessible when we want to access in remote location. See here, the remote WebDriver works very different from the WebDriver, and it also, the remote WebDriver is a class. Always remember there's a difference between a class and an interface. Okay, so class, and it contains methods which shows that what action is to be performed. That is remote WebDriver. Whereas interface, it contains the abstract methods. So the remote WebDriver is not serving as advantages as the WebDriver that we have included over here. So it is, the best practice is to include the WebDriver driver is equal to new Chrome driver. Okay, so I'll delete these commands, and yeah, through system.set property, we have a key value, we have entered the string value over here, that is the WebDriver.Chrome.driver, and here we have entered the path of our executable Chrome driver. Next we have written WebDriver driver is equal to new Chrome driver. Through these two steps, the Chrome browser is launched. Now remember, these two steps are common for all the test cases we are going to write, because in every test case we are going to launch a browser. So these two steps are going to be similar. Okay. So the next test case. The next test case that we have is navigate to the URL. Okay. How are we going to do that? Now we have driver as a reference variable. We're going to write driver.get, and we're going to include the site where we want to navigate, that is www.google.com. This is the site I want to navigate to, and we're going to run this command. The Chrome browser is launched, but it has not navigated to the URL. Why? Let's see. So here it says Chrome browser, Chrome driver was started successfully, and here it says invalid argument exception. There is invalid argument. Why? Let me tell you. Here when we write the URL, you need to write the complete URL, which includes https:// Now let's see. So our Chrome browser is launched, and here it is. It is navigated to the URL, that is the google.com. Okay. So I'll just close this. I'll close this as well. Okay. So now you have understood, to navigate to a URL, we will write driver.get. The get command is used to navigate to the URL. Okay. So the third test case is to close the browser. How are we going to do that? We're going to simply write driver.close. The close command is used to close the browser. Save it and run. So here our Chrome browser is launched and it is navigated to the URL and it is closed. See, it happens very fast. But yeah, this is the process. Like, we have launched the Chrome browser, we have navigated to the URL, and we have closed the browser. To navigate the URL, we are using the get command, and to close the browser, we are using the close command. So these were the steps to launch the browser, to navigate to the URL, and to close the browser. Now let's execute the second test set, which has the Firefox browser, in which we have to launch the Firefox browser. So I'll comment all these and we're going to launch the Firefox first. Okay, there is no harm if we write both the browsers. There's no harm. It will execute the Chrome browser first and then it will execute the Firefox browser first. We will do that also, but first let us execute this particularly. Okay, so in the next set of test cases, here it is. We have opened the Firefox browser, navigate to the URL and close the browser. The only difference is that we are working with the Firefox browser over here, okay, and over here we were working with the Chrome browser. So let's start. First thing, the first test case, which says that we have to open the Firefox browser. Okay, so how we're going to do that? Obviously we're going to write system.setProperty, which is having two string values. One is key and one is the value. Okay, so over here you can see, over here the key value is WebDriver.Chrome.driver. So over here it's going to be WebDriver.Gecko. Gecko is the driver name for the Firefox browser. .driver. Okay, this is the key. Now we will enter the value. How are we going to do that? We're going to go to the path where our Firefox driver is saved. Here it is. We're going to copy this path. We're going to simply paste it over here. We will change the slashes and we're going to include the file name. So our file name is Gecko driver. Gecko driver.exe. Okay, and next command. Our next command is that we're going to create an object of Firefox first. And how we're going to refer it? We're going to refer it by the WebDriver interface. WebDriver driver is equal to new Firefox. Okay, next we need to navigate to the URL. How are you going to do that? Navigate to the URL. We're going to simply write driver.get HTTPS. We need to write HTTPS : www.google.com. Okay, then the third command is to close the browser. How are we going to do it? We simply write driver.close. Okay, so let's launch it. So let's run this program. We'll click on this. And here it is. Our Firefox is launched, it is navigated and it's closed. Yes, so as I said, there is no harm. Like, simply I will uncomment all these. I'll name this as driver 1, driver 1 and driver 1. Okay, so let's execute this statement. It will open the Chrome driver first. Yes, it is opening the Chrome driver first, it is navigating and it is closing. Now our Firefox will be opened. Yes, it is navigating and it is closed. So there is no harm if you're including two browsers in one program. There's no harm in that. Okay, just change the reference variable. Here I have changed the reference variable to driver1 and driver1. Now since we have executed these two sets of test cases, now let me explain you this command. Now here we have written WebDriver driver is equal to new Firefox driver. We can also write Firefox driver dr1 is equal to new Firefox driver. This command is also valid. Okay, there's no harm in writing Firefox driver dr1 is equal to new Firefox driver. But what are the disadvantages behind this statement? I'll tell you. Now see, when you're working in an organization, you are working with many people. You will be having at least 500 number of test cases, and out of which 250 test cases are need to be automated. So there are large number of test cases which are need to be automated. In that you will be supporting the cross browser testing. So you have to simultaneously run multiple browsers at the same time. Okay, and there are a large number of test cases. Now see, the advantage behind writing WebDriver driver is equal to new Firefox driver, here you are not stick to one browser. You can execute multiple browsers this way. But whereas if we write Firefox driver driver1 is equal to new Firefox driver, here we are stick to one driver. It is we are specific towards a driver, that is the Firefox driver. Here if you want to change to Chrome driver, it will be, you have to write Chrome driver dr2 is equal to new. This is what you have to write if you want to change to Chrome driver, and you have to comment this line. And even you have to change, there will be many other changes also in the program because of a driver. Okay, so this thing is very harmful. It is not a good practice of writing this command, that is the Firefox driver driver is equal to new Firefox driver. Whereas if you're working with this and there is a situation where you have to change to Chrome driver, you have to simply just change over here Chrome driver. You'll just write Chrome driver and your entire program will be launched through a Chrome driver. Okay, so this is the difference between the WebDriver driver is equal to new Chrome driver and the Chrome driver is equal to new Chrome driver. These are the problems that we are facing if we are writing Chrome driver is equal to new Chrome driver, that is the program is specific towards the Chrome driver. Whereas if you are writing WebDriver is equal to new Chrome driver, it is not specific towards a particular browser. Okay, so let's first revise what have we understood in this tutorial. So what did we learn? The first thing that we learned is to launch the browser. In case of Chrome browser, how did we do? First we set the property through a system class, that is a system.set property, in which we are having two string, we need to enter two string values, that is the string key and the string value. In case of Chrome driver, the string key is the WebDriver Chrome driver, whereas the string value will be the path where our executable file is saved. The next statement is that we are going to write WebDriver driver is equal to new Chrome driver. Through these commands, it will launch the Chrome browser. Now in case of Firefox browser, same we are going to write system.set property, but the key value will change, that is the WebDriver.getCode.driver, and also the path where our Firefox driver is placed, that will also change. Okay, then the next command will be WebDriver driver is equal to new Firefox driver. Through this command we are launching our Firefox browser. Next, we learned how to navigate to a particular URL. Simply we will use driver.get command. The get command is used to navigate to a particular URL. We have to include the HTTPS, all the website, any URL you are entering over here, you have to enter the full URL, the entire URL, including the HTTPS. Okay, then to close the browser, we learned how to close the browser, that is we are using the close command, that is a driver.close command. So the next thing that we learned is about the hierarchy of the classes and the interfaces. That is, we learned first thing about the search context. It is a super interface of the WebDriver and it has only two methods, that is the find element and the find elements. Next, we learned that the WebDriver is an interface which extends the search context interface, And the WebDriver has methods like the get method, the get title, get current URL, close, quit, etc. That has many methods, and also it has the nested interfaces also. Then the remote WebDriver is a fully implemented class which implements the WebDriver interface. Okay. Then we have the Chrome driver, the Internet Explorer driver, the Firefox driver, Opera, Safari driver. All these are child classes of the remote WebDriver class, and they provide the browser-specific implementation of the Selenium WebDriver. So these are the hierarchy of the classes and the interfaces of the Selenium WebDriver. Next we learned that what are the this PPT shows that what are the valid statements that we can write through creating an object of Chrome driver, and how can we refer it. Now writing WebDriver driver is equal to new WebDriver. This command is wrong. Okay, this command is wrong. We can write WebDriver driver is equal to new Chrome driver, new Firefox driver, new Internet Explorer driver. This is the best practice. In industry level, we use the WebDriver driver is equal to new Chrome driver. This command is frequently cut. This command is only used because writing this command, Firefox driver, through this, it is the program, the script that you're writing is specific towards a Firefox only. It is launching, it will launch only the Firefox browser. Whereas over here also it will launch only the Firefox driver, but there's a situation where you have to change the driver. They might say that the company says that you have to launch the Chrome browser, launch the entire test script in the Chrome browser. So what you're going to do is you just have to simply change over here to Chrome driver and you're done. But whereas if you're writing Firefox driver, you have to change the entire statement, and there will be other statements also that you have to change. Okay. So the best practice is the WebDriver practice. WebDriver driver is equal to new Firefox driver. But whereas if you write Chrome driver driver is equal to new Chrome driver, there's no harm in it. But the best practice is to write the WebDriver. So in this tutorial, we will understand what are web elements, what are the different types of web elements. We will understand the locators and its types. Also, we will understand the difference between find elements and find element method. So let's get started. First thing, what is web element? Now, anything that is present on the web page is called as a web element. For example, the text boxes, the drop down menu, the radio button, anything that is present on the web page is known as a web element. Let me show you this site. For example, this is the web page. Now, anything that is present on this web page, anything that is this search bar, these my account link, this more link, this cart link, the search icon, anything that is present over here is a web element. We have to inspect all these elements. Like over here, if you want to send any command, if you want to send any text message on the search bar, how are we going to do that? We're going to inspect the elements. So all these are known as web elements. Now web elements are basically of two types. One is single element, the second is the group elements. Now single element. This is the registration page. Here you can see these text boxes, right? So these are single elements. Why? Because of we can easily find out a locator to work with this. For example, we can find out through ID, we can find out through name. So these are the different types of locators that will be used to inspect these elements, these text boxes, this radio button. But I'm explaining here what are the different types of web elements. So there are two. One is the single element, the second is the group element. Single elements are the text boxes because we can identify them very easily through locators, through name, through class name. Whereas the drop down menu, they are known as group elements because here to identify the drop down menu, we will use a locator as well as that we will use a combination of a value or an index property. Now what is this value or index property? When we understand how to inspect the drop down menu, at that time we will come to know that what are the different types of commands that is used to inspect the drop down menu. So that is the reason why it is called as a group element. So next we have locators. Now what are locators? Locators are the way to identify a web element. Anything that is present on a web page is called as a web element, right? So how do we identify it? For example, here you can see, right, this search box. How will you identify the search box? How will you send commands to the search box? How will you click on this icon, on the search icon? How will you do that? For that you need to inspect these elements. For that you need to locate these elements. So how are you going to do that? Simply just place your cursor on this element or whichever element you want to inspect. Just right click it and click on inspect. And here you can see I'm actually placing my mouse on this syntax of search button of this search box, and it is highlighting. Here you can see, right, it is highlighting. So this is the way you can inspect your web element, and through these locators we will inspect the element. For example, here you can see input. This input is your tag name. It is an element. Your input has many attributes, like we have class, we have type, we have name, we have title. So these are the different attributes of input tag. So we will be using these attributes as locators to locate these web elements, to inspect these web elements. Okay. So now what are locators? Locators are a way to identify a HTML element on a web page, as we just saw right now. Now there are different types of locators. One is a locator, the second is the customized locator. Under locator we have the ID, we have the name, we have the link text and the partial link text, we have the tag name, we have the class name. Whereas in customized locators we have the CSS selector and the XPath. Now this XPath is one of the most important locators, and it is frequently used by many automation testers because it is one of the most easiest thing, and we will be using a different plugin for this XPath that is called the CrowPath plugin. So choosing XPath as a locator will be one of the most easiest locator. Yeah, even though ID, name and all these are easiest, but most of the time automation testers, they prefer the XPath locator. Okay, so we will do that at the end because there are many technical things also in this. It is a little hard to understand. Before that we will understand what is ID, name, link text, partial link text, tag name, class name and CSS selector, and we will have a command on this. We will practically implement also this. Okay, so locating by ID. Now before proceeding, I would recommend you to have a basic knowledge about HTML, which will be very beneficial for you because we are automating the web pages over here, and a web page is made up of HTML, CSS, JavaScript languages. So your HTML and CSS will play a lot of role over here in locating the web elements. Just a basic knowledge and then it's fine. Okay, so now locating by ID. Now ID, they are unique for each element. The ID value that we have, right, is always unique for each element, and it is one of the most common way of locating an element. And the ID are supposed to be unique on a page, and that is the reason why ID are the most reliable locators. Like in form of priorities, whenever the automation tester tests the application, the first thing that they will do is they will try to automate the web element through ID. Because ID, the value of ID is always unique for each element. So that is the reason why ID is one of the most reliable locator and the fastest and the safest locators out of all the locators. Okay. Now let us assume this is your text box, email address, and you want to send some value over here. You want to automate this field. Okay, you want to inspect this field, you want to send some value over here. How are you going to do that? And this is the HTML syntax that you have for this text box. So how will we locate this element by ID? We will simply write driver.findElement. Here I am using find element and not find elements. Okay, driver.findElement by .id, and here when you inspect this element, when you right click and inspect on this element, here you will get the syntax right. Over here ID is equal to email. You will place this value over here. Now see, whatever value you enter here is case sensitive. Okay, whatever is written over here, you have to write it over here the same way. Like over here the email is written in small letters, you need to enter your email in small letters only. It's case sensitive. Okay, then I will send a form command. This is the send key command over here. This is a form control which is used over here to send a particular text to this field. What I'm doing is send keys abc@gmail.com, right? So I'm sending this email ID, that is abc@gmail.com, in this text field. The text field which is located over here, this email. So you get it. I'm writing driver.findElement by .id email, which I found it over here in the syntax, dot send keys abc@gmail.com. So this is the way how I'm going to locate the ID. See, we're going to implement it also. First, just understand this command. Okay, the next one, locating by name. The next locator is name. Okay, now here same thing, just assume you have a text box which is name which is of email address, and this is the syntax of it. So how are we going to locate by name? Is the same as ID, but the only difference between name and ID is that name locator are not unique for a page. Like I said, for ID, for each element the ID value is unique, whereas for name it's not that. Okay, that is the difference between the ID and the name. So over here you can see, right, name is equal to from. Similarly, we will write driver.findElement by.name from .send keys abc@gmail.com. So this is the command which I will use to locate by name locator. Now let's implement this practically. I'll just open my IntelliJ IDEA IDE. So now I'll create a new Java class. Simply I'm having this project name Selenium, and I'll create a new Java class. I'll name it as Selenium tutorials. Now here you can see this web page. Now we will be automating this web page. So the task that we have for today is, here you can see the search bar. So we will be automating this search bar. So how are we going to do that? We're simply going to click on the search bar and click on inspect. And here you can see, as my mouse is on the syntax, and you can see that the search box is highlighted. Okay, here we have different attributes like the class, we have the type, we have ID, we have name. So we will be using these attributes to locate this search element one by one. Okay, so let's do it. Now open your IntelliJ IDEA IDE and create a new class. I created a new class in my Selenium project, that is the Selenium tutorials 2. And in the previous tutorial, I explained how to launch a browser. We will be launching the Chrome browser. So here I have written the two commands that were used in launching the Chrome browser, that is the system.setProperty. Here we have to enter the key value, that is the WebDriver.chrome.driver, and the path of the executable file, that is the Chrome driver executable file. Next, we had written that the WebDriver driver is equal to new Chrome driver. So these two commands are used to launch the Chrome browser. So let's run this. Okay, so here our Chrome browser is launched. Now what I want to do is, I want to maximize this Chrome browser. That is, my Chrome browser is minimized right now. This is what I want. So how am I going to do that? I'll simply write driver dot manage dot window dot maximize. So this command will maximize the Chrome browser. Now let's see. Let's run. So here you can see my Chrome browser got maximized. Okay. Then the next command. As I said, we are going to locate this search box through ID and by name. Okay, locators. So let's do it by ID first. Let's do it by ID locator. So first, okay, sorry, just before that we have to navigate to the URL, right? So first we will navigate to the URL. We're going to write driver.get. I'm going to enter this URL. And yeah, okay. So yeah, first we launched the Chrome browser, we maximized the Chrome browser, then we navigated to the URL. Let's check it first. It's launched, the Chrome browser is launched, maximized, and it is navigated to this URL. So I'll just close this. Now, as I said, I want to locate this search box through ID. Now here, same, I'll just place my command, click on inspect, and here this syntax here you can see, right? This syntax, here you can see ID is equal to search underscore query underscore top. So this value will be used to locate this search box. Now how am I going to do that? Just check it out first. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to write driver dot find element. It's find element and not find elements. Okay, find element, I'm going to write by dot, see here you can see it's by dot tag name, ID, class name, CSS selector. So I'm using ID, and then I will here insert the value of ID that is given over here. Simply just double click on it, copy it, and paste it over here. Okay, it is case sensitive, so paste the same thing. This value should be same as the ID that is given in that syntax. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to send some command to it. So I'll write send keys, and I'll simply just type, I want to send t-shirts. Chrome browser is launched, is maximized, it is navigated to this page. And here you can see it's here, it's written t-shirts, right? We haven't inspected this element, this search bar, and that's why it's not clicking on this. Okay, we will do that later. So now this is the first way of writing driver.find element by ID and .send keys. Okay, the second method that you can write this command is, let me comment this. So I can write driver, similarly just the same thing, but I'll write it in a different way. Find element, I'll write by dot ID okay, that's it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to store this in a variable. I will name it as search is equal to driver.findElement by .id. Now what I'm doing, I'm locating a web element, right? In Java, usually when we write it as int a is equal to 10, right? Then we write float b is equal to 10.2. So here you're giving some data type to your a and b variables, right? So here also we will, this search element, so here also we will write something, right? So what you're going to do that? So what you're going to write? Simply here you see this search underscore query underscore top. What is this? We are locating a web element, right? So we are finding a web element on a web page. So this search variable will be of what type? It will be of web element type. So web element search is equal to driver.findElement by .id search underscore query underscore top. Okay. Now over here you could see I had written .send key. So simply what I'll do is I'll write search dot send keys, and I'm going to write t-shirts. Okay, so let's run this command. This is the second way of writing this one line command. You can write it this way or you can write it this way, depends on your choice. Okay, so I'll just run this. The Chrome browser is launched. It's maximized. It is navigated to this URL. And here it is. Here you can see it's t-shirt. Here the value is sent. Okay, so I'll just close this. I'll close this also. Okay, so I'll just comment this. For now, this method is better. Okay, next we will do it by name. We will locate the search box by name. Okay, so how are we going to do that? Again, we're going to write driver dot find element by dot name, and here you will see we have the value of name. Just double click it, copy it, paste it over here and write dot send keys. I'll write shorts. Okay, so now let's run this. Chrome browser is launched, it's maximized, it is navigated to this URL, and here you can see, okay, wait a minute. Okay, I didn't comment this. Let me comment this. Okay, I'll do it again. So I'll click on run. The Chrome browser is launched. It's maximized. It's navigated to this URL. And here you can see it's shorts. Okay, so I'll just close this. Now we have understood how do we locate by ID and how do we locate by name. Similarly, here you can see the same way you can write it by name also. There's nothing different in it, but this is the most precise way. You just write it in one line. Here you have to write in 2 lines. It's the same thing. So I prefer this one. So it's up to you which one do you prefer. There's no harm in writing either of the way. Okay, so we have learned by ID, we have learned by name. Next we have locating by link text and partial link text. Now what is link text and partial link text? See, whenever we have links in our pages, okay, like there's a web page and there are links involved in this. In that case, we have the link text and the partial link text. Now link text and partial link text both are different. They are not the same, but partial link text is not mostly used by the automation testers. Link text is mostly used by the testers because this is the most precise way of automating or clicking a link. For example, like suppose let me show you here this page. You can see right now here women, I have dresses. Now there are various dresses over here. So if I want to click on this link, here you can see this link. So if I want to click on this link, how am I going to do? I'm just simply going to click inspect, and here you can see this. You can see there is an anchor tag over here. So this anchor tag is used for links in HTML. Okay. Now here you can see, is there any class? Is there any name or ID attribute used over here? No, right? So how will you identify this element? How will you inspect this element? We will inspect this element through link text. That is the link text which is written over here. Here you can see women A-line multicolor dress. You can see this text written over here, right? We're going to inspect through this text. This is the link text that is given over here. And the A class, which denotes the anchor class, which is used for links in HTML. Okay, so for clicking the links in Selenium, we will be using the link text locator. So how are we going to locate this element through link text or partial link text? Now for example, here we have various links like the printed dress, the printed summer dress, and this is the syntax of this. Okay, so it is a syntax of printed summer dress. So how are we going to click on this printed summer dress? How are we going to click on this link? For that, we will be using, I'll be explaining link text first. we'll write driver dot find element by dot link text printed some address. Here you can see this is printed some address. This link text is used to identify this element. Here you can see there is printed some address. This printed some address, right, this text is used to identify this element, that is the printed some address. Okay, so I'll just simply write printed some address. This is case sensitive, just write it the same way. And dot click. Again, before we were writing send keys, right, that is the form command. This is also a form command which is used to click a specific element or to click a specific link. So what operation I need to perform over here? I want to click this element, right, printed some address, so I'm going to write dot click. Similarly, for partial link text, what you do, you partially write the text. Like over here we have the printed some address. We'll just write some address. Still it will detect this printed some address and it will click at this link. Okay, that's the partial link text and the link text. Now here the partial link text means that we don't need to pass the complete value here. You just need to pass a portion of the text. Like I said, you need to pass the portion of the text. I have passed some address over here, right? So through this also it will click at printed some address. So let's practically do it first. For just open your IntelliJ IDE. So I'll just create a different package over here. I'll just create a different class over here for link text and partial link text. So I'll just write Selenium tutorials 3. Okay. Just click on dresses. Okay, so I'll just copy this and I'll paste this URL here. Okay, so now by link text, so it's going to be driver dot find element by dot link text. Okay, so now here I want to click on this link. So how am I going to do it? I am going to inspect this element first. So I inspected this element. Here you can see I have the printed chiffon dress which is written over here. This is the link text. I will copy this and I will paste it over here and I'll simply write click. Okay, so now let's see. Okay, it's launched. It is maximized, it is navigated. And here it is selected. So here you can see this is printed chiffon dress. As I had written printed chiffon dress dot click, so here it's clicked. Okay, now let's try it by partial link text. So I'll just simply command this. I'll do it by, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write driver dot find element by dot partial link text, and what I'm going to enter is chiffon dress, and I'll click this text. Okay, so now let's run this. Chrome browser is launched, it is maximized, it is navigating. And now it's clicked. Okay, so now here you can see through partial link text also my printed chiffon dress, this link is clicked. So now we have understood ID, we have understood name, then we have understood the partial link text and the link text. So next is class name. Now through class also we can locate our web element. For example, we have this text box name, email address, and we have this syntax of HTML syntax. Now we have the attribute class over here. Here we have the class attribute form control, the value is. So how are we going to locate by class? Simply just write driver.findElement by.class form control, send keys, and whatever value you want to send away. It's similar to ID and name. There's no such difference in it. But this one thing is that the class name, that the value of form control, now this value can be of multiple elements on a web page. It's not unique. Whereas the ID is a unique value, right, which is given to each element. For each element, the ID value is different. Whereas for class, the value for each element is similar. Like for multiple elements, there must be a class name form control. Okay. So in that case, many of them don't use class. The automation testers, they use class locator very less as compared to the ID and the name. So the next locator that we have is the tag name. Okay. Now tag name are used to find multiple elements on the web page. Like, let me tell you what is tag name. Like suppose here you can see, right, this input, this is your tag name. This is the tag name here over your input, and the attributes are this type, name, ID. These are the attributes that is used. So tag name are used to find multiple elements on the web page. For example, suppose this page, okay. Now I want to find the number of links present on this page. So how can I do that? I'll simply click on inspect. I'll find the anchor tags, the number of anchor tags present on this page. Okay. Through that, I can find out the number of links that is present in this page. Okay. So tag name. Now your tag name, like A, like here the A, the anchor tag is used as a tag name. Now through this A, that is the anchor tag, we can locate the, we can find the number of links present on this page. Now remember, tag name is used when we want to find multiple things. Like suppose I can now, if I want to find the number of sliders over here, like how many sliders are present. So how am I going to do? I'm going to inspect the element, like under every anchor tag we have the image. Like suppose, for example, let me inspect this. Here you can see under every anchor tag we have the image, so the source image resource. So through this anchor tag I can inspect the number of sliders that is there. I can inspect these sliders, how many sliders are present, how many through this image tag I can identify how many images are present on this web pages. So the tag is used to find multiple elements on the web page. Now for example, it is mostly used like if I want to find the number of sliders, if I want to find the number of links on this page, if I want to find the number of images on this page. So through this I can find the number of multiple items or multiple elements on the web page. So let's implement that. So what I'm going to do is let's create a new class, Java class, right, Selenium tutorials. Okay, so I have created a new Java class over here. Here I'll write driver.get, and in this I'll write, let me inspect this element. Okay, we will inspect this. We will try to find the number of links present on this page. Okay, let's see whether this program runs properly or not. Okay, my Chrome browser is launched. It is maximized. It is navigated to google.com. Okay. So now what I want to do is I want to find the number of links that is present on this page. Okay, there are many links like this image, Gmail, and there are links like Hindi and the different types of languages. So I want to know the number of links that is present on this page. So how am I going to do that? Okay, simply I'll use the tag name tags over here. So here we will be using by tag name the locator. So I'll just simply write driver dot find elements. I'll use find elements over here because I have to find multiple elements over here. Okay, by dot tag name, and here I'll write which tag do I need to inspect to find the number of links that is present on this page. So I'll be inspecting the anchor tags that is present on this page, right? The number of anchor tags, I want to know the number of anchor tags that is present on this page. So I'll be using A. This is the tag name which I want to inspect. Okay. Now here I have used elements, find elements, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a variable over here. Link is equal to driver.find elements by tag name. Now this link is of what type? That we need to decide, right? So how are we going to do that? Now here, this find elements, okay? This find elements need to return a list. It needs to return a list of elements. It needs to return a list of web elements. Web elements are this anchor tag, the links that is present on the web page. Anything that is present on the web page is known as web elements, right? So we are returning a list of web elements, right? We need a list of web elements. So here we will be using the collections concept that is there in the Java, in which we have the list. That is a Java util package. And here in list, this A tag is what? It is identifying what? It is identifying a web element, right? So I'll write a web element. So this find elements is designed to return back a list of web element, which is what is being assigned to the variable link. Okay, whose type is of what? List web element. Okay, so now here there's a variable link. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write s out and link dot size. Now the size method is used to find the number of elements that is present. Okay, number of elements that is present on the web page. Through this command, through link dot size, this method is used to find the number of elements. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save it and let's run. Chrome browser is launched. It's maximized. It's navigated. And here you will see there are total 27 links present on the web page. Now what I want is I want the name of these links. So how am I going to do that? To print those names, I'll use the for loop. I'm simply going to write for, and here we are inspecting the web element. So I'll write web element. I'll name it as L, and here I'll write link s out, and I will write L dot get text. Now the get text method is used to retrieve the or to return the text that is inspecting, that we are inspecting. Over here we are inspecting the links, right? So it will get the text of those links. That means I want the name of the links that is that they are identifying over here. These 27 links, right? I want the name of these 27 links. So I'm writing a for loop in which I have given a web element L because I'm inspecting a web element, that is the links I'm inspecting. I've given a I have stored it in L, and here I'm printing those links, the name of those links. Okay, so I'll just click. And here my Chrome browser is launched. It's maximized, it's navigated to google.com, and here you can see we have the different types of links that is present over here. Okay, so through this way we can find the number of links, and we can find the name of the links that is present. That is, we can find we learned the get text method and the size method over here. Okay, locating by CSS selector. Now this CSS selector, this is a type of customized locator. Now before studying this CSS selector, we need to study some CSS concept. So let's have a look at it. Now for example, we have a front page.html, we have this HTML file, we have the HTML tags and everything, and inside the body tag we have this div tag. Okay, now we have written div class is equal to box. I have given the class value as box. Okay, and then I have given the text and I have given a code inside this div element, this div block, whatever it might be. But the thing is over here is about the class and the ID, the difference between the class and the ID over here. Okay, so we have this front page.html in which we have the div tag. Inside the div tag we have the class. Okay, and the value of this class is box. So if I append the style sheet in this HTML page, so how will I style this class? How will I style this div block? So I'm going to style through this class value, that is box. Now how am I going to do that? To access this class, I'm going to write this dot. Do you see? I'll be accessing it through a dot. This is a period that is used while accessing the class value. Okay, so I'll write dot box, and then whatever attributes I want to write, like color, green, red, or whatever it is, whatever formatting I want to do or whatever style I need to add, I'll add between these blocks of code. Okay, so this is one concept. For class we will use dot. Now let's see for ID. Now here we have the front page.html similar, and we have the div block in which we have the div ID is equal to box 1. I've given the ID value as box 1. So if I want to style it, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the hash symbol over here. Here you can see I'm using the hash symbol to access this ID. I'm going to use the hash symbol, that is the hash box 1, and then whatever styling I want to perform, I'll perform between these blocks. But the thing that I want you to understand over here is that for class we are using the dot, and for ID we are using the hash. Okay, so this is the CSS concept you need to know for the CSS selector. Okay, so now locating by CSS selector, that is the tag and ID. Now just assume we have this text box, that is the email text box, and this is this HTML syntax that we are having. Now here for tag and ID, your tag, what is your tag name? Your tag name is this is your tag name input. Okay, and these are your attributes like the class, ID, name, these are your attributes, right? So what you're going to do is, like for tag and ID, it is tag name hash ID, like as I said in the previous slide. To access ID we use the hash, right? So over here we'll use tag name hash ID. So how we're going to write is like driver.findElement by .css selector. We'll use CSS selector over here. We'll write tag name first. The tag name is input, so we'll write input. Then we'll write hash, and then we are going to write the ID value because it's tag and ID. The CSS selector that we are using is tag and ID, right? So we're going to write the ID value, that is email. Okay, now this is case sensitive, just write it the same way which is it is written over here. So we're going to write input hash email dot send keys. Okay, whatever text you want to send, just send it over here. So this is how you're going to write the CSS selector for tag and ID. Now let's see for tag and class. Okay, so here we have the text box, email address, and we have the syntax over here. So how are we going to write for tag and class? For class we use the dot operator. Here you can see we use a dot, right? So similarly, before we were using hash. Here you can see we were using hash for ID. So for here we are using the dot for class. It's the same thing. We're just going to write driver.findElement by .css selector input dot, that is a tag name. Your tag name is input dot class value. The value of your class is control, right? So I have written control over here. Dot send keys @abc@gmail.com. Whatever text you want to send over here. Okay, next we have the tag and attribute. Okay, so how we're going to work with tag and attribute is tag name, Then we have the attribute name is equal to attribute value. Now we can use any of the attribute that we want. Like over here, we can use the driver.findElement by.css selector, input, name. Like here I can use ID, I can use name, I can use class, anything I can use. So I'm using name. Name is equal to from. That is the attribute name is name. My attribute value is from. Here you can see. And my tag name is input. Okay. My next CSS locator is tag and class and attribute. So how am I going to do that? Simply I just have this text box, that is the email address, and I have the syntax over here. So what I'm going to do is over here for tag name, it's tag and class and attribute, right? So for tag name, we'll first insert our tag name, that is the input. Then we have the class. We want to write the class. For that we need to use the dot operator over here. We are using the dot over here, dot. The class value that we have is control over here, it's control. Then the attribute name, now here I'm using ID, you can use any of the attribute. So I'm using ID is equal to email.sendkeysabc@gmail.com. Okay, so I hope it's clear for you. The CSS selector, now see, CSS selector is not mostly used by the automation tester. They don't use this CSS selector a lot. Instead of CSS selector, they use the XPath. See, the frequently used locators are the ID, the name, and for links we use the link text and the XPath. The XPath is used frequently by all the automation testers because it is one of the most precise form to use the locator, and it's tough to understand, but once you understand it, it's very easy to use. Okay, because we have a CropPath plugin to use that. We will use that plugin to find our XPath. Okay. So next, one of the most important interview questions that you will face is that what is difference between the find element and the find elements. Okay. Now we found this find element and find elements in tag name. In tag name, I wrote a program in which I used find elements because I wanted to find the number of links on a web page, right? I wanted to find multiple web element on a web page. So that's the method used to find multiple element on a web page. We use the find elements. That's where I use find elements, right? So the first difference is that find element, this method is used to access a single web element on a web page. We will use to access single element on the web page. Till now we were accessing find element because we wanted to access only one web element, that is the text box or some other box, that is the email box. So we have to access only one web element. So that is the reason why we are using find element. Whereas in find elements, this method is used to access multiple web element on a web page. In our case, we were finding multiple anchor tags. The anchor tags, that is the A tag that is used on our web page. We were finding the number of links in our web page. Okay. Next, in find element, when the element is not found, it throws an exception. See, whenever the element is not found in find element, it will throw an exception such as no such element is found. Okay. Whereas in find elements, when the element is not found, it returns an empty list. It will return some empty list. Okay. Next, the find element, it will find only one web element, whereas the find elements will find the list of elements which matches the same locator. Like if we have written A as a tag name written over here and we find the number of A tags. So it will return the list of elements. That is, the list of elements will be returned as I have shown in the program. Let me show you the program. Here it is. Here you can see it is returning the list of web elements. That is, it is returning the list of links. So the find elements will find the list of elements which matches the locator. Now let me explain you when the element is not found. Like here you can see when the element is not found, it throws an exception, no such element found, right? So we're going to do that. I'll show that, I'll implement that for you. For example, suppose let's go to this tutorial and comment this. Okay, and suppose this by name. Okay, I'm just writing search, just writing something so that you don't find the element. I'm using the find element method over here. See, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to prove you this statement, that when the element is not found, it will throw an exception, no such element found. I'm trying to prove this statement. Just check it out. Okay, so I have changed the value over here. Now let's see. The Chrome browser is launched. It is navigated. So let's see. See, here you can see no such element, exception, no such element, unable to locate element. Here you can see we have got an error over here. Here you can see name is equal to search underscore QU. Unable to locate element. That's what I said, right? For find element, when you're using find element and the element is not found, you will get an exception that no such element found or unable to locate the element. Whereas in find elements, we will return an empty list. Now let's try to do this one. We use the find elements method here, right? Find elements. Now let me change the tag to, suppose I'm changing to AR. Okay, this is what the tag I'm changing, and I'll just comment this for time being. It's navigated. Here you can see, are we getting any list of array? It's just simply 0. Number of we didn't find any tag name AR over here, so it just returned 0. So that's what it said, that it won't give any error or something. It will just return an empty list. It will just return, like if the element is not found, it will return an empty list. Over here it returned 0, so there is no tag name AR. So this is what is the difference between find element and find elements. This is one of the interview question which is asked in Selenium, and it is also one of the most important question that is asked. So this is all for today. In the next tutorial, we will learn what is XPath, and we will execute, we will practically implement that. We will also download the CrowPath plugin that we used for XPath. So in today's tutorial, we are going to create test cases and we're going to execute them. But before that, let us understand what we did in the previous tutorial. So in the previous tutorial, we learned what are the web elements, what are the different types of web elements, and one of the most important concept that we learned in the previous tutorial was the locators. Now the locators are the way to identify a web element on a web page, and we discussed the different types of locators like the ID, name, tag name, class name, the link text, and the partial link text. And also we discussed about the CSS selector in the previous tutorial. So the ID, name, and the class name are the attributes that is used in the HTML through which we can identify the web element. Whereas the link text and the tag name, these two are used. First of all, the link text is basically used to click a link on a particular web page. If we want to click on some link, we use the link text. Whereas the tag name is used to retrieve multiple elements on a web page. Like for example, I want to know the number of links present on the particular page. So I'm going to inspect the tag name, that is the anchor tag, that is the A tag, and I'm going to count how many A tags are present on that web page, through which I will retrieve multiple elements. So that is for that we are using tag name. Whereas the CSS selector, we use the tag in ID, we have the tag in class, we have tag in attribute, we have tag class and attribute. So these are the different types of CSS selector also we understood in the previous tutorial. So these were some of the concepts that we learned in the previous tutorial. Now in this tutorial, we are going to create test cases and we are going to execute it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a test case in which we are going to open the Chrome browser. I'm going to navigate to this URL, this page that you're seeing, right? I'm going to navigate to this URL. I'm going to enter the valid username and password and click on login button. Next, I'm going to verify the title of the page, that is the orange HRM, and I'm also going to verify the URL that is specified over here. See, the main intention behind this tutorial is that we are going to learn different types of commands in this. Also, we are going to learn how to verify an element. Like in manual testing, we use the expected result and the actual result, and the status column is present, right, in which you have to match the results and pass the status that it is failed or passed. So over here also we are going to verify some elements, like I am going to verify the title of the page, we are going to verify the URL of the page. So these are some of the elements that we are going to verify today. Before that, let us understand some of the commands that we used in the previous tutorial. Let's understand that. Let's revise that. The first command that we used was a form command, that is the send keys command. Here you can see the send keys command, which is used to send a particular text to the particular element, right? Then we use the click command, which is used to click an element. Then we use the get command, which is used to navigate to the URL. Next, we use the get text command, which is used to retrieve specific elements text. If you remember that we were counting the number of links in a page, right? So in that, I wanted to know the name of those links. So we use the get text command. Next, we learned about the size command. The size command is used to get the number of elements in the list. Now, if you remember, while counting the number of links, we use the size command to know how many links are present on the web page. Next, we use the driver.manage.window.maximize command, which is used to maximize the window. Next, we use the system.set property. As you know, it is the very first line in our program. So which is used to set a value and a key. The key is like the WebDriver.chrome.driver, and the value is the path of your executable file. Okay, so these were the commands that we learned in the previous tutorial. So now here I have prepared some of the test cases. First is open the Chrome browser. We will navigate to the URL, enter the valid username, enter the valid password. Next, we will click on login button. Then we are going to verify the URL, and then we are going to verify the title, and then we'll close the browser. So these are some of the steps that we're going to perform today. So let's get started. Now open your IntelliJ IDEA IDE. I'm going to create a new class over here in my project. Okay, so now I have created a new class. I have named it as Selenium Tutorials 5. And I have opened my Chrome browser. These are the two commands that I've used, that is the system.set property. Next, I have used the WebDriver, driver is equal to new Chrome driver. Next, I have navigated to the URL. This is the URL, and I have maximized the window. These are the commands that we have been learning in the previous tutorial also. So now what I want is, I want to enter valid username and valid password over here. So I'm going to simply click on this element and click on inspect. Here you can see there are different attributes used. So I'll use the ID attribute first. So I'm going to write driver dot find element by dot ID. I'm going to enter the value that is there. This is case sensitive, so enter the same value. And what I want to do is, I want to send some value to it, right? So I'm going to write send keys, and I'm going to enter the valid username. Here you can see the username and the password it's given. This is a demo website which is normally used for automation. So you can also use this and you can automate this website. So the username here uses admin. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste it over here. So here I have entered a valid username. Now I'm going to enter the valid password. So for that, I'm going to write driver again dot find element. I'm going to write by dot, I'll use name. So let's see, let's inspect that element. Here you can see this name attribute. I'm going to copy this, paste it over here. I'm going to send some information to it. The password is given over here, so I'll just simply copy this password and I'll paste it over here. So here we have entered the valid username and valid password. So I've entered the valid username and password. Next, I have to click on login button. So So I'm going to inspect this login button. I'll simply click on inspect, and here you can see we have the name, class, ID. So I'll use the ID. I'll use driver dot find element by dot ID. Now enter the value, and what I want to do is I want to click this, right? So I'll right click. Okay, so now let's run this. My Chrome browser is launched successfully. It's navigated and it's maximized. Okay, there is some problem to it. Okay, here you can see I have given some space, so there is no space in password. Again, let's run this command. It's launched, it's navigated, and my admin and password. Okay, it's logged in successfully. Okay, so now what I want is that I want to verify the title of the page and I want to verify the URL that is present over here. Okay, so let's verify that. So first we will verify the URL. Let's verify the URL. Now for that we are going to use the get current URL. This is the command that we're going to use to verify the URL. Now this command returns the current URL of the web page. Okay, so let's see. What we're going to do is we are going to write driver.get current URL. Okay, and we're going to store this in a variable. We're going to store this in a string type variable. Let me write the actual URL. Okay, so we are storing in a string type variable. I have named the variable as actual URL, and I have written string actual URL is equal to driver.get current URL. Okay, now let me print this. Let's see the actual URL of this web page, and then we will verify it first. So let's run. My Chrome browser is launched. It's navigated, and the username and password is entered. It's logged in successfully, and here it is. This is my current URL that I'm getting. Okay, now I am on this page. I am on the dashboard page, so that is the reason why I'm getting this URL. The current URL retrieves the URL of the current page. Okay, you're on which page? On that page the URL will be retrieved. So here we have printed the URL. Now let's verify it. So now I have to verify it, right? How am I going to do that? Now I have already created a string variable, that is the actual URL, in which I have got the current URL of the web page. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another variable of the string type in which I will store the desired URL, and I'm going to match both these URL. Okay, so this is what we're going to do it. So first we will create a string type variable, and I'm going to write it as desired underscore URL, and I will paste this URL that I am getting. Okay, next I'm going to match this actual URL and desired URL. For that I'll be using the if command. Simply I'll write the actual URL dot equals the desired URL. Now if they are equal, what I'm going to print is I'm going to print pass, and if they are not, then I'm going to print fail. Okay, so let's see. Let's run this command. My Chrome browser is launched. It's navigated. Okay, I've entered the valid username and password and it's successfully logged in. And here it is. I have got the actual URL is also retrieved by the get current URL command, and also the actual URL and the desired URL both are matching, so the output is pass. Now what if I change this URL? If I write current.com, so now let's run this command. Now you see the output will be fail. It's launched, it's navigated, the browser is maximized, valid username and password is entered, and here it is on the dashboard page. Now let's see. Here you can see the output, it's fail. Why it's fail? Because I have changed the desired URL. The desired URL that I want is the open source demo orangehrmlive.com, and the actual URL that I'm getting is this. Okay, so that is the reason why it's failed. So this is how you can verify the URL of a web page. Next, let's verify the title of the page. Okay. Similarly, if we're going to verify the title of the page the same way, for that the command that we will use is the get title command. Okay. So what you're going to do is we're going to simply write string actual title, that will be driver dot get title. Okay. Next, let's print this title. I'm going to write actual title, and let's see. My Chrome browser is launched, it's navigated, valid username password is entered, it's logged in. Okay, so this is the title that I got. The first one is the I got the current URL. Then the test case that I have verified is failed because I have written the desired URL that I want is this, and the actual URL that I'm getting is this. The next one is that I'm printing the title of the page, that is the orange HRM. Now how do we get the title? Simply just inspect this page, and here in the head tag you can see the title. Here you can see it's orange HRM. So this is the title of the page. Okay, so this is the desired title that you want. Okay, so what you're going to do is, similarly we're going to write string desired title, that we want is the orange HRM. This title that we want is, we're going to match this. So we're going to simply place it over here. Now we will verify it. We will verify with the if command. I'm going to write if the actual title dot equals, then we are going to write the desired title, and here we are going to write if my test case is passed, then I'll write pass, and if it's not matching, then I'm going to write fail. Okay, so now let's run. Okay, now I've launched, it's logged in, and we have logged in successfully. Okay, let's see. Now here we can see the current URL, my test case is passed. Next, I can see the title of the page, that is the orange HRM, and the desired title and the title that I'm getting, the actual title, they both are matching, so the test case is passed. What if I change this desired title? And now let's see. Okay, my Chrome browser is launched. It's navigated. It's maximized and okay. And here you can see it's failed. Okay. So we have verified our title. We have verified our URL. The next command that we're going to use is the driver.close. So this command is used to close the browser. So let's run this again. We have opened the Chrome browser, it's launched, it's navigated, it's maximized and login successfully, and here it says it's passed. The current URL is retrieved. The test cases of verifying the URL is passed. Next, the actual title of the web page is retrieved and the test cases fail because I have written only orange HR. So let's change it and save it and let's run it again. My Chrome browser is launched. It's navigated. It's maximized. The valid username password is entered and here it is. Okay, and it's closed also. So this is the current URL. The test case of verifying the URL is passed. This is the current title and the test case for verifying the title is passed. So this is how you can verify the URL and the title. These are the different commands, and the different commands that we learned today is one is the get current URL, then we learned the get title also, and we learned how to verify the commands. Okay. So this is what we learned today. We executed this test case. We opened the Chrome browser, we navigated to the URL, we entered the valid username, the valid password, we clicked on login, we verified the URL, we verified the title of the web page. Next, we closed the browser. So we executed these test cases. By executing these test cases, we learned how to verify the title, we learned how to verify the URL. Also, we learned different commands. We learned like the get title command and the get current URL command. Okay, so there is also one more command that I want to explain you is the get page source command, which is usually used to get the page source, that is the source code of the page that we are on. So these are some of the get commands that I'm explaining you. These are frequently used by the automation testers. So we're going to write the driver dot get page source, and we're going to store this in an element. Sorry, we're going to store this in a string type variable. I'm going to write the page source, that is PS, and we're going to simply print it. Okay, so let's run this. So my Chrome browser is launched, it's navigated, and okay, so here you can see that my source code, that is the page source code, is visible over here. This is the source code that I've got. Okay, so this is also one of the command which is used, that is the get page source. This is used to get the source code of the page that we are navigated to. So in this tutorial, we learned the three commands, that is the get page source, we learned the get title, and we learned the get current URL. Okay, so in the get source, we learned that we through get page source we can get the page source, we can get the source code of the page. Next, we learned through get title command, we learned how to get the title of the web page. Next, we learned the get current URL, which is used to get the current URL of the page. So these were the three get commands that we learned in the today's tutorial. So in the next tutorial, we are going to learn about the XPath. We are going to use the Chrome plugin, the ChromePath plugin for the Chrome browser, and through that ChromePath plugin, we are going to retrieve our XPath. So we're going to study what are the different types of XPath also. So until then, stay tuned and thank you. Please like, share and subscribe this video.